Today's episode of Northern Lights is presented by North Star Law Group, a trusted partner for small businesses in Minnesota's legal cannabis industry. Whether you've already applied for a license or just getting started, attorney Jen Riza and her team can help you build a compliant business, identify and navigate risks, put together an application, and keep you informed about the ever-changing Minnesota cannabis landscape. Are you ready to add North Star to your team? Visit northstarlaw.com/cannabis and let North Star Law Group guide you through confidently opening your doors. Again, that's northstarlaw.com/cannabis. Keeping track of your grow doesn't have to be a hassle. Meet Plant Track. That's PLNTRK, a tool built by Minnesota growers for growers like you. Track every stage of your plant with intuitive progress bars for each phase. Stay on top of your grow with text reminders for watering, feeding, and photos. And when it's time to log data, it couldn't be easier. Just scan a QR code or tap an NFC tag to instantly access your plant's details and updates. You can even log your interactions for one or all your plants in just seconds. Ask detailed questions with the AI chat powered by your plant's data and get the help that you need when you need it. It's free for up to 8 plants. Go to www.plntrk.com now and start tracking your grow. We're going to start our episode by giving a shout out to our friend Drake and Aaron Dupree. Shout them out both.
Both are not like us.
I got a message from our friend Kayla, just being like, "You did a really good job of holding it together." I'm like, "Thanks."
When was it? Did she walk by our booth? Was that what was going on? Or what?
All right, so you haven't watched the episode yet, so I'm going to tell you the story, and this is going to be so good. So I'm sitting there with Kat. We're chatting. It's just like, "Hey, how are things going?" Kat then sees Aaron Dupree and her friend walk by. I see her, and I do the thing of I'm not going to make eye contact. And I look at Kat. Kat looks over, sees her, and goes, "Shout out Aaron Dupree." And I'm like,
I have
all right,
watched this.
Cool. Yeah, and then that's when she's like...
I listened to it. I didn't watch it. Okay, keep going.
So she then says, "I think Aaron should be the director." And I have never been caught more flat-footed in the course of Northern Lights podcast where I didn't want to say anything disrespectful. I love Kat. She's one of my favorite people. But I just couldn't.
Yeah. I listened to that on Tuesday morning and I didn't know until I read the YouTube comments that she was on mushrooms.
Yeah, it really did explain a lot of me, like, let's all come together. We just want to be one big family. And I probably seemed like such a dick being like, "Nah, I want chefs that know how to cook, not just randos." Right. She's like, "No, we want our friends." And I'm like, "Yeah, who know what they're doing." That's alas.
She wasn't our friend when she got the nomination.
No.
She was an Apple Valley business owner.
And how has she become our... I think it is that we like a good underdog.
Yeah.
And people started shitting all over her. Perhaps maybe too much. But are we overcorrecting now by saying, let's bring her back. Bring her back in.
I think where the respect comes in is that she hasn't just like cozied up in a hole and like never to be heard from again. Like
totally.
She's on her redemption tour right now. You can find her at Earl Giles every Wednesday at the bar.
Shout out Aaron Dupree.
Friend of the show.
I want to get a shirt that says that.
Yeah.
She's a public official. We can't get sued. She's a public official for at least a minute.
If you have any back taxes, let us.
Yeah.
Does she still get like her own like Secret Service detail? Like just like one person hanging out now?
Like Timmy?
Yeah, there was actually a new executive order that she does.
I would imagine between your day job and the political atmosphere, things are a little bit up and down, like internally at Tanner Barris Incorporated.
The 250 milligrams a night helps the sleeping. Otherwise,
just one big smazy.
How much of that? Oh.
Remember the big smazy?
I thinking back to those early days of hemp beverages where there weren't the 10 milligram clear rules.
Yeah.
or there sometimes were, but people weren't following them.
Yeah.
And you'd see those 50 milligram cans, the 200 milligram cans, and it's just like, wow, that's sort of neat. And you'd try it, and it'd just be like, oh, this does not taste good. I see why we go with 10 and 20.
You're chewing it at that point.
A little bit.
I love the cheeky workaround of like, yes, it's just 16 ounces made up of
10 servings.
16 servings.
Yeah.
As notated by the little notch on the label.
I like
exactly.
Don't drink any more than just the one serving.
I like my seltzers 1.6 ounces at a time.
Seltzers, notoriously good to be kept in the fridge for long periods of time and be just as good as they were when you open them. This episode is brought to you by seltzers.
It's actually brought to you by Ziploc, but you'll have,
Yeah,
to, listen,
yeah,
you'll have to
exactly.
listen to the show to hear.
And the Girl Scouts of America. They haven't reached out yet, so I think
That's good.
they're official sponsors. We're going to start putting their logo right in the bottom corner.
Lucky Leaf wants us back for next year, so
They do?
yeah.
Wow, that's
we'll-
pretty good.
Maybe we'll dig into that.
We're bringing the Girl Scouts.
Trefoils.
We're going to be out front with the Girl Scouts. Girl Scouts brought to you by the
Northern Lights podcast. Wow.
Oh man, that's good. Just to circle back before we get started, like the interview was going straight to Laredo. I mean, we're talking south, like Kat and Tanner talking.
Oh, yeah. I thought you were talking about the interview you were just doing. I was like, really? I thought that was
Yeah,
going
it
pretty
sounded
well.
great from over there.
but then somebody, I think it was Kat and Spencer, they're like, hey, you should hop on, and then like I hop on and like we bring the energy up like right away. And then I haven't gotten to the end with Will all the way, but like Will, energy super high. But
I love that. Oh, my God. Fantastic.
I want more Will. And I want specifically, he posted on his Instagram story a couple days ago, today, I don't know, about we need the YouTube Yu-Gi-Oh show of just getting stoned and talking about Yu-Gi-Oh.
So I sent him something this morning.
sure.
It is his laugh. I clipped just part of his laugh from the episode and then looped it, and then I sent it to him. So I'm going to just hold that up to the microphone. So this is from this morning.
Mm-hmm.
That's so good.
And it just kept on going. I love Will. Will, I love you.
Shout out to Will from the podcast.
Friend of the show.
You know who should be OCM director?
Will Johnson.
Our
Will
buddy
Johnson.
Will. Yeah. Yeah.
I love that.
And then him and Dabs can just take care of it.
It'll be good. It'll be good. All right. Well, we ready to jump into the episode?
Absolutely. I had a couple guys come up to me at the booth, mostly on Saturday, about like, hey, I listened to the show, and I love it, and I listen to it, but I wish you guys would just get straight to the news.
All right. All right. Well, with that,
we do our best.
we don't have to do the games.
The game helps us warm up, so
Yeah.
maybe we start with the game just to get loose. But if you like put the news first, but then the game, I don't know. I kind of like
How
it is.
about we'll just add some chapters in the YouTube description, and you
Yeah.
can just skip ahead,
yeah,
Mr. Person.
yeah.
I like the lady that
You
came
just-
up and she's like, "You guys are my lunch."
Then I said, "Ma'am, take
Cool.
me out to lunch first."
Yeah.
Oh, we eating though.
Hello, hello. Welcome to another episode of Northern Lights. I'm your host Tanner, joined today by Steve and Jordan. Hey there, guys.
Hey, fellas.
Hello.
I'm doing great. I don't know about this guy.
Back in the studio. Man, guys, it feels good to be home. It was fun to be at the expo last week. That was a great time seeing all those friends at Lucky Leaf, but it's comfortable being like
Yeah.
at being at home.
I really appreciate you guys letting me out of the studio. I don't see the sun very often, so that was
We
very
had to-
fun, very nice.
I
Thank you.
signed the permission slip and
Yeah,
got you out of here for a day.
it was nice.
We do have kind of some breaking news.
Oh, lay it on me.
We still need to give away the Canatrol,
Oh, okay.
and I've got a bunch of names in a hat.
Oh, we get to do it live here?
Yeah.
Oh, this is all right. I didn't know this was coming. This is exciting. All right, let's go ahead and we're gonna do a drawing. Yeah. All right.
Yeah, because we ended up not selling any raffle tickets
Mhm.
because, whatever.
For
So we just asked people to put their name and email on
I
a sheet
love
of
it.
paper. And so this morning I was cutting them up. And if you're open to it, this episode is actually brought to you by Canatrol.
What? Oh, a shout out to Canatrol.
And we're going to be giving away a Cool Cure unit live on the air right now.
Very cool.
So if you wouldn't mind,
Oh, I'd be so happy to.
it's like you were at the after party.
I've never owned one, but our buddy Overt Sloth has one.
Yes.
He gave me that little sample test of the 2, and it's crazy how much more flavorful it was after in that. All right, but I did the drawing. I got my piece of paper here. Here we go. Drum roll.
Do we have a name?
We have a name. We got Lisa Meyer Mulkerson.
Wow.
Lisa Meyer Mulkerson.
And there's an email address?
There is an email address. So we're going to be shooting you that email. And yeah, that's really exciting. Your home grow just got leveled up like 1,000%. So that's pretty cool.
I'm going to put this on the clipboard so I don't lose it.
There we go. That's
And
good call.
And we will be emailing you, and you can pick it up from Dabbler Depot Seed and Sesh Tuesday nights.
Sweet. Well, thanks to Canatrol. That's sweet.
Yeah. Okay. Is that a good enough way to start the episode for you, sir?
I think that's a good one. I think
enough
that's a good one.
excitement?
It's exciting. We're going to have confetti and explosions going on over top of this.
Yeah.
So you guys are seeing all of that right now. Wow. Yep, exactly. Yep. Will just came over my shoulder. It's crazy. It's so good. Well, guys, we got an action-packed episode today. We're leaving Lucky Leaf behind, but don't worry. We've got a ton of news from the past week that we're going to be covering. We've got a great interview coming a little bit later. It was really cool hearing the little end clips as I was coming in.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
Not Ghislaine Ball.
No,
However, we did shout out Ghislaine and the great job she did with the catering at Lucky Leaf. And that was all that wasn't all planned by any means. So Ghislaine called out sick today, unfortunately. But we brought Spencer Ploessl in. Spencer Ploessl Creative lives up in Two Harbors, worked in the craft beer scene, worked for North Canaco, and has done work in the cannabis beverage space, has been helping me with Canna Connect for the last year or so, on and off. And, it was fun to talk to Jordan. It was fun to have a fellow creative in the room and hear Jordan and Spencer chat a little bit. And, yeah, feeling really good about Lucky Leaf, but ready to jump into the news and kind of hear what's going on in Minnesota cannabis.
Yeah. Well, are we're gonna do a game, or we're gonna skip the game?
I'm a creature of habit. It's
Yeah.
game time.
No, you're right. And you'll hear the interview later in the show.
Let's jump into the game. Well, guys, I got to tell you something. It is my favorite time of year. Do you know what time of year it is?
It's March Madness.
It's March Madness.
It's like the best time of the year for sports because you've got hockey playoffs, basketball playoffs, more basketball playoffs, more hockey playoffs.
And I'm a big rugby fan, so March Madness is just one of my favorite times of the year.
And I'm a big Future fan, and that's one of his best albums.
There we go. So, March Madness, the best. Jordan, you look confused.
You said rugby and then said March Madness is your favorite.
Is it not rugby?
It is if he wants it to be.
Yeah, sure. Where you get the touchdowns with the crickets.
Yeah. No. It's the basketball tournament. I did have to Google that last night because I didn't really know. But I have heard March Madness talked about so many times. I get the excitement around it. I love just, getting involved in things going on like dog races or whatever. If it's going on around me, I'm there. I'm stoked about it. And it is March Madness, and we are celebrating in a way that only really Northern Lights can.
Wow. We're talking about a 16 snack bracket featuring the best sweet, salty, and wild card snacks.
Oh,
It is
this
the
is my
March
game.
Munchie Madness. 16 snacks going head to head. We're going to have to figure out what is the best stoner snack. Some of these, as you heard, are deliciously chocolatey, sweet. Some of them may be a little bit salty. Some of them may be wild cards, baby.
Can I share one thing, though?
Sure.
From our last game. So I have a friend named Jordan, different spelling. He happened to have been driving through Michigan this week, and I texted him on Thursday night asking him what dispensary he was planning on stopping at, and he responded, Holiday Inn Express. And because he misunderstood what I was asking him, clearly. And then in the morning, I said, that's really funny because last week, Tanner and I played a game on the show called Real Dispensary Name or Not, and go back and listen to it if you haven't heard it. And Holiday Inn Express would have fit in to your game.
Michigan or Michigan't you? And my experience at the Holiday Inn, Michigan, but maybe, I don't know. Probably like 10 years ago, Holiday Inn was a really good place to score some weed.
Yeah. What would you have guessed, Jordan?
Yeah, I think my
He
guess
would have
is
guessed
yes.
Michigan based upon how that game went.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully today's game is going to go a little bit different. Here's what we're going to do. We got these two combos. We're going to be going head to head. We got the bracket. We're going to be working all the way to the end.
Steve, do you have the bracket?
Oh, no, it is just in front of me.
Okay, good.
So we're going to be starting with our number 1 seed. Now, these seeds are totally meaningless. I just typed them up there in order. But we got Taco Bell's nacho fries with queso. Have you guys had those before?
Once or twice.
All right, I think they're fire. Competing against Goldfish, the snack that smiles back, Goldfish. Now, you're stoned. You're sitting on your couch. What snack are you reaching for?
It's Goldfish for me. 10 times out of 10.
Well, I mean, these are two different players if you think about it. Because in one instance, you may be driving to the location to buy the hot food.
Yep.
You could be also
Goldfish,
getting it
right?
delivered.
DoorDash and Goldfish. Yeah.
Anything is possible with DoorDash. This episode is brought to you by DoorDash. How are we going to determine this? If Jordan has are we going to have to reach consensus?
Just best of 3. So I think if we will just vote. And,
Okay. I'm going Taco Bell.
All right.
I love the convenience. I love the consistency. One, yeah, you can have fluctuations in like cracker fish density. Some batches are a little overdone.
Is he talking about original or pretzel?
Yeah, are we talking flavor blasted?
I'm talking the original cheddar,
Okay,
and unfortunately, we're going to move forward with Taco Bell's nacho fries because
Damn.
I think Goldfish are great, but
All right.
unfortunately,
All right.
frowning here.
That's
All right.
a majority.
We got Skittles, not with the Z, the cultivar, but this is actual candy Skittles. Or Cheez-It and pickle sandwiches. So you got pickle slices with Cheez-Its. I've talked about them a lot on the show. Fire. Definitely recommend them. Didn't bring any in today, but which one would you reach for on the table?
What was the first option?
Skittles.
Oh, yeah. I'm going Skittles.
I'm going Cheez-It. And
Oh, all right. The Cheez-It and pickle sandwiches continues on because that is absolutely what I would reach for.
that is those are two of my favorite flavor profiles right there.
Wow, you guys are wacky.
Yeah.
All right, cruising through. Next one, we've got pizza rolls. Choose your own flavor if you want the combination, the cheese, whatever. Think your preferred versus cosmic brownies. Which one are you reaching for? You're stoned, you're hungry, you're like, man, I need something in my stomach.
Are cosmic brownies infused?
They're infused with something, but I don't think THC.
Okay. I'll go air fried pizza rolls.
I'm going to concur.
All right, pizza rolls it is. I absolutely agree with that.
Yep.
So we've got Dilly Bar or we've got melted ice cream cereal. So it's cereal, but you got a bunch of vanilla ice cream that you melted and poured on top of it. It's like the delicious creaminess of milk, but even thicker and more rich.
And we're stoned. It's 9 o'clock.
Yeah. In the morning or at night, doesn't matter.
AM to PM, man. PM to that AM funk. My left stroke just went viral. I'm going Dilly Bar.
I think Dilly Bar too. Yeah.
All right, there we go. Easy peasy. I would have gone the opposite, but that's okay. All right, next one. Salt and vinegar Pringles or Reese's Pieces.
Oh.
This is like an 8-9. This is a tough matchup.
Yeah. Well, no, it's not tough at all because anything.
8-9. That's a reference I get now because I've made my first bracket ever,
Yes,
and I
yes.
see that 8 and 9 go against each other.
Yes. Oftentimes you'll see like a 4 or 5 similar situation with a smaller amount of that's the 1 to 8 equivalent versus the 1 to 16 equivalent. You're talking about really just like right in the middle.
Okay, there we go.
Splitting hairs.
All right.
But no, I'm not splitting any hairs with this one. I am taking the.
What is it?
We haven't even done Tanner's Chirp tastings, and I'm like
Salt and vinegar chips or Reese's
Yeah.
Pieces.
I am taking Reese's Pieces, peanut butter and chocolate.
Sounds good.
Find me
ET.
outside. There's no better flavor combination than peanut butter and chocolate.
I'll concur. I do. That is that one breaks my heart though because I am here for the salt and vinegar.
Something about vinegar. It's weird. I love pickles, but I cannot stand the smell of vinegar.
I like the Dutch Crunch, those kettle roasted salt and vinegar chips more, but I'll go Reese's Pieces for.
All right, there we go. Reese's Pieces it is. All right, moving right along. Cool Ranch Doritos or Flamin' Hot Cheetos? Which one are you choosing?
I don't love either, and I don't hate either.
Okay.
I'm gonna take probably the Cheetos.
I'll go Cool Ranch.
All right, I think we're gonna go with the Cool Ranch ones here, but I'm sort of in the same boat where like they're both pretty similar to me, but I would choose Cool Ranch 9 out of 10 times.
I'll let you have it.
All right, mozzarella sticks, just your favorite mozzarella sticks, or an ultra mega stuffed Oreo.
That's a thing?
I don't think so.
Okay. Yeah, it's like beyond double stuffed. It's
Yeah, it's like imagine the largest Oreo you could imagine, and then just add like 20% cream to that.
wow.
I got a cavity just thinking about it.
Yeah.
All right, mozzarella sticks it is.
Yeah, I think Mott sticks. Hey, do you want 8 string cheeses? No.
All right.
What if I deep fried them?
There we go.
Send them over with marinara.
Are we through the first round?
We got one more last pair up. We got our blue raspberry slushy. You go to whatever.
Icy.
Or you've got, and I need to explain this one for a minute. It's called a gummy bear pizza. So this is a standard pizza that you put gummy bears on top of after it has finished. You then put it back in the oven for around a minute or two so the gummies fully sort of melt and coagulate on the pizza, sort of like it looks like a little pepperoni, but it's a gummy bear. Which one of those two would you choose?
Not that one.
Not
All right,
that
blue
one.
res slushy. All right. All right, so we are now through that first round. So you've heard everything that we're competing against. And now we've got some of our preferreds going against each other. We're going to be going in reverse order, working our way back up.
Heartbreak.
So we got that blue raspberry slushy now fighting against mozzarella sticks. Which one are you grabbing?
Slushy.
Mott sticks.
All right. I'm going to go mod sticks as well. Blue raz is just, it's too much for me these days.
I can just
It's
picture
everywhere.
the white polar bear just floating away in the ocean, just from the icy machine.
Yeah, it's that, the nostalgia. Yeah, all right. Next one, Reese's Pieces or Cool Ranch Doritos?
Reese's Pieces.
Reese's for me.
Easy. That's the easiest Reese's Pieces decision I've ever made.
All right, next one, Dilly Bar versus Pizza Rolls.
It's so nice out. I'm skewing more towards these cool desserts.
Yep, I'm gonna go Dilly.
All right, Dilly Bar it is.
Yep.
And then our final pairing, Taco Bell, nacho fries, or cheese and pickle sandwiches. My vote is cheese and pickle sandwich. So if anyone else agrees with that, that's the winner.
Pickles for me supersedes so many other things except for French fries. So like,
Oh, this is a French fry podcast.
this episode brought to you by potatoes.
Oh,
All
yeah,
right,
that's right.
all right.
Potatoes.
All right,
All
we'll go with the
potatoes.
Taco Bell fries then.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Wow, did Taco Bell pay you to create this game? Because that's one of the only branded.
It is the only branded one. I guess Reese's Pieces, but not.
Oh, true.
Yeah.
Are they
All
owned
right.
by the same company?
Would you guys choose the Taco Bell nacho fries with queso dip or the Dairy Queen branded Dilly Bar?
Oh, there we go. There we go. I'm a homer. Give me Dairy Queen.
I'm going the nacho fries.
All right. I meant to get fries on the way here, but didn't. So I'm really craving fries. So unfortunately, Dilly Bar, we're going with the nacho fries. And then the final one before we get to our final pairing, Reese's Pieces, brought to you by Reese's, or mozzarella sticks, any brand.
Brought to you by the Italians.
Yeah.
Italian.
Italian.
Reese's Pieces.
Reese's Pieces. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I'm going for
By
it.
the handful. Like at nighttime. Like last night, I was just eating jelly beans. I couldn't stop.
Give me a shovel.
Yeah,
All right. So the final pairing here, we've got Taco Bell nacho fries with queso or Reese's Pieces. We're going to each say our favorite, but we're actually not going to finish the game here. We're going to ask people to send in comments. Drop it in the show notes. You know, you can send us a DM online, send us an email. Let us know your favorite. We're going to tabulate all the results.
We'll put
Choose our.
We'll put it on story.
Yeah, we'll put a poll on stories.
They can vote.
It's 2025. We can just use social media. Yeah, go vote on that story. But what do you guys think? I'd go with the taco fries. I've been craving those, so I would choose that as a winner. What about you guys?
If we were all three stoned and we're like, oh, God, we're hungry, I have no problem going to Taco Bell and sharing some fries with you.
Yeah.
It would be an honor.
If I'm at home watching TV on my phone trying to go to bed and I'm just not ready to go to bed yet, I got to go Reese's Pieces.
All right. That's fair.
It's set and setting, right? Set
Yeah.
and setting.
Set and setting.
I love some hot food. I love some food that I didn't have to do any preparation for. That being said, I don't think that outweighs the love I have for peanut butter chocolate combination.
All right.
It's
So there we go.
Reese's Pieces for
All right.
old Jordy Pants.
There we go. So what I love is that we're sort of split because you picked one, I picked the other. You're sort of like, it depends on the time and day. What do you guys think? Let us know. Vote on the poll. Drop it in the comments.
It's not about us. It's about you.
It's about you and Taco Bell. Thanks for bringing it. All right. Let's jump into the news. Guys, we've got so much news to cover. So we're going to jump into that. But first, we're going to take a very short break. Attention Northern Lights listeners. Whether you're growing cannabis indoors or outdoors, organically or hydroponically, Eco Garden Supply has the tools to help you succeed. From premium organic nutrients to advanced hydro systems, they've got everything you need to cultivate like a pro at home. Head to ecogardensupply.com now or visit them in person at 800 Transfer Road, Suite 3, St. Paul, Minnesota 55114, and elevate your cannabis. Eco Garden Supply, growing supplies for the serious grower.
Did you know that 70% of businesses fail in the first 10 years? And the number one reason they fail is because they run out of cash. Hi, I'm Dave Woodbeck. I'm the managing partner of Dope CFO. At Dope CFO, we help cannabis business owners beat the odds by providing financial leadership. Yes, we handle bookkeeping, accounting, and taxes, just like any accountant. But as one CEO recently told me, the last thing I need is another accountant. I need a partner who can help me achieve financial success. So take the first step towards financial success. Scan the QR code now to start your free self-assessment.
All right, y'all. Well, as we talked about at the beginning, we've got tons of news that's happened over the past couple of weeks. We're going to start by touching on the application process. Now, of course, we don't have a ton of new news, but it's important to sort of document where we're at before we cover some of the other big things that are happening in Minnesota.
Right. We're still currently in that window for folks to be applying for applications or for licenses through an application.
Exactly. This episode comes out March 11th. You guys are listening to it either on that day or afterwards. And March 14th is that last day of this first round of applications. So we're getting really, really close to the time when OCM says, at least for the first people that get licenses, we're cutting it here.
I may have misspoke in the past, but you touched on it with John Barty. After March 14th, there's no clear understanding of when the next window will open up. So
exactly.
If you don't get your application in by March 14th, you're not guaranteed to be able to apply for, unless you're an events license.
Exactly. Yeah. Hemp also we know is coming likely down later in the year, but we're sort of in that in-between time where if you don't get this window, there will be more in the future. We don't know when, and probably if I were a betting man, not in 2025. Yeah. But it's not OCM saying that. That's just government moves slowly.
Not to continue to keep you off track, but there was something about a runway where they were talking about 12 to 15 months before they were going to adjust something. I can talk to you. I can follow up with you after, but
yeah. But in essence, they're trying to get through this entire first round with the draft rules being pended, with legislation potentially being changed in St. Paul, just trying to focus on the application as it's written right now.
Sure.
So we might see changes to this entire process in the future. The things that they're asking for on the application, aside from what's in statute, might shift a little bit. But I think the runway that you're talking about is once people get approval from OCM, they have 18 months for that application or the license they got from that application to be active and being used.
Sure.
Otherwise, they surrender that to the next person.
Okay.
Where if it's a micro, that doesn't really matter because there's an unlimited number of those.
Yeah.
You just apply again.
Okay.
But if it's a meso, you lose that. It goes to someone else. There's caps. It might be years, decades before you're able to get that meso application.
Wow. So, and the meso's a hot one.
Real hot one. Yeah, we saw during that first round, the pre-approval that didn't end up happening, lots of people applied for that meso license. And it makes sense. You get to do so much more. Your caps are so much higher, but you're not yet at that $90,000 application fee.
Sure.
So
good sweet spot.
Yeah. So they plan to hold the lotteries for this round of applications sometime in May or June. So we'll know within the next couple of months here who has these capped licenses. But what's great is for the ones that are uncapped, we should know before then. They're saying as soon as the window closes and they start reviewing applications for uncapped categories, they're going to start moving those people into that approval process pretty quickly here.
Okay.
Especially for people that were approved during the pre-approval social equity round that didn't end up happening. Those people are, in essence, starting to move forward with getting the background checks, getting their site inspected by OCM. Those people could be open within the next couple months at most.
And there's no real transparency around that unless the receiver of the email shares their progress along the way.
Yeah, unlike other states where there was that lottery, it was announced, these are all the people that got licenses. With this rolled out process of issuing licenses, we might see OCM say in a public notice, here's the ones that were issued today, just so people are aware. But it's sounding like Probably not.
Wow. So these are going to sneak up on us. They're going to sneak up on you fast. Like, and that's kind of exciting.
Yep.
Regardless of how we feel about the process.
Yeah.
Things are going to just start popping up.
Yeah. Late spring, early summer is when they're saying these stores that are going through the licensure process now will be open. And
Wow.
I don't know about you. It's feeling a little bit warmer outside.
Yeah.
It's feeling like I might be able to start saying it's almost getting to spring. Almost.
Yeah.
It just snowed.
Did you see that? Did you see that it snowed?
Yeah, that was pretty nuts. My car got stuck 3 times on the way to work. Good thing I had a shovel in the car. It was pretty fun.
Oh gosh. Yeah.
There are days I miss being a teacher, and snow days.
Yeah.
It's one of those. And then every other day, I don't. But here we are.
The thing that with a lot of our audience being in Minnesota, like there was a while in February where I just had accepted that it was never going to get any warmer.
For sure. Yeah.
It was just going to stay cold forever.
Yep. The -10 was just the normal. But thankfully, we're sort of returning to like, it's cold, but man, like my jacket I put on when I got it to my car, sort of too hot to wear.
And like the weather, the Minnesota cannabis industry is going to find a new normal.
Exactly. Do not use your car as a terp cooler anymore because it's getting warm. But moving on back to the applications, because guys, this is really, really important. We're going to see these stores really starting to open soon here. And we had sort of a fun snafu, if you will, that I haven't heard talked a ton about in the media. But social equity applicants that were denied because they didn't provide proper information were sent notices saying, here are the things that you need to change. Most of them were given a 14-day window to get that submitted. That window was, I believe, Wednesday or Thursday night of this week. I was getting texts or calls from people that were getting last hour submissions turned in. Shout out to you. And OCM's website went down.
Crashed.
Totally crashed. People were unable to access it for about an hour, from like 10:30 to 11:30 on the last night of being able to upload social equity documents for certain applicants. Thankfully,
wow,
for the people I was talking to, it did come back around 11:30. They were able to get it submitted, but a good reminder, maybe don't wait until the last hours of March 14th to get that application turned in. Please, for the love of God, don't.
Whether you're a teacher or an advocate in the industry, procrastination is never the answer.
Yeah. You can't do the whole assignment the night before. And I know you guys think, Jordan, I know you can. You could probably write your whole application the night before, but don't submit it the same day.
Yeah, you got to account for those technical things.
Yeah, you never know.
Yeah. And then just one shout out to OCM. They have been making more of those webinars. So if you're interested in learning about different license types, obviously we're getting down to the final hours. Hopefully you know what license type you're looking to apply for. But if you don't, go and learn about those and watch that webinar. That I guess it's nice it's coming now, but maybe it would have been cool in November. Yeah. June, July, whatever the new months that we're coming up with are.
Yeah, I'm excited for May, June. I got a lot going on May, June. Super excited. It's one of my favorite times of the year.
May, June.
May the June be with you.
May the June be with you. Well, guys, we've got a fun update on a story that we talked about long time ago. This is episode 22. 222 of season 2. Back on episode 29 of season 1. So like 30 episodes and Northern Lights ago. You can go find it. We were in the studio, not here, the other one, and we were having a good time. Mm-hmm. We talked about a town that was exploring bringing in a municipal dispensary, not running it themselves, but getting a third party to come in, getting a third party to pay for it, and getting them to just operate a dispensary on behalf of a town that just gets a cool, mean 25%.
I want to say you and John Barty were talking about it.
Yeah, we made some jokes about it, you could say.
Okay.
Talking about how this is maybe like a sidestep to the entire regulatory structure that was created of if you're a private business, maybe go apply for a private license. But that all being put aside, we got some cool news, which is that St. Joseph, the town that contracted with Red Pine Group to explore building a dispensary, they're officially applying for a license. They approved at the city council meeting on Monday. So by the time you guys are listening to it, it was a week ago, officially saying, let's move forward with this.
Let's talk about St. Joseph a little bit.
Yeah.
They are a neighbor town to the St. John's and St. Ben's, Collegeville, as we know it, the college town near St. Cloud. And St. Joseph was recently in a Star Tribune article because alumni from St. Joe and St. Ben's are staying, and they're investing into the community, and they're buying property and revitalizing and turning these into businesses. And there's somewhat of a craft renaissance taking place in St. Joe. There's a brewery up there.
Yeah.
They make a CBD, CBG, THC beverage.
Okay.
Want to know why I know that?
Yeah.
I told them to.
Wait. So what's
Sure.
What's this beverage?
Well, I want to say it's like Bad Habit Brewing.
Oh, okay,
is,
for
is
sure.
the company. I believe they get their THC water soluble from Superior Molecular.
Allegedly, yeah.
Perhaps.
Yeah.
And at the time, I was having conversations advocating you should really put CBG in your beverage. It's going to improve the overall
that's
feeling.
really cool.
Yeah. And so if you go to St. Joe, even if you don't go to the municipal cannabis dispensary, they have some like cool things going on. There's an ice cream shop. There's some like a letterpress shop. It's a college town, so they have, things going on. But I regardless of the private versus muni, perspective that we've shared in the past, like I'm not surprised, and I think it's kind of a good thing for a small town like this to get a little help with their dispensary, because
Totally.
on its face, like this isn't a destination dispensary where you drive to St. Joe. But if you're in a college town, you want to make sure that your dispensary is on point.
Yeah.
That you have professionals operating.
Totally. Well, and it's interesting how they're using this as an opportunity to try to just bring additional revenue to the city. Their thought is people are going to be selling it. We could either get the minor fraction of the taxes that come from just allowing private business, or, hey, we could allow private business but also be a partner and get a much bigger cut of that for the community. And it's, I was in debate in high school. I can argue for anything, whatever. I don't even know my own opinions. But if I were to think about what a good model for getting cannabis to people in a way that's supportive of the people that are buying it and of selling it, it is being run in a way that's community led. Like the person who runs this shop is going to be overseen by someone who gets elected by the members of St. Joseph's community. And that's one of the few cannabis businesses that is actually accountable to the community, not just through dollars, but through direct action.
Yeah.
And that's, putting aside the sidestepping regulatory structure, I think that actually is perhaps one of the best ways to be getting cannabis to people. But,
And
people could argue whatever.
And this isn't all that common across adult use recreational states.
No, we would be the only state in the entire country that has city employees selling cannabis to other adults.
Wow. Yes, that's right.
In fact, we might be one of the few places in the world where you have government employees distributing cannabis. I believe in Israel, their medical company is all government run.
Sure.
So that would be through that. I might be wrong about
Canada,
that.
you might be getting close.
Yeah, for sure. Certain provinces in Canada, you're right. I think in Ontario, you can only get it through their mail system. And it's, you get government weed and whatever. But
better than government cheese.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm missing something or many things, but like it seems like an obvious solution. Like the infrastructure is already built out for municipal liquor stores. Like the system already has shown to be applied and work. I'm like, why is it like so baffling that we're just now like it's so rare? And
well, just to provide further context, like the Brainerd City Council voted 4-3 to not go for a muni, and Wayzata, another city that was considering it, is not moving forward. So you have to factor in the stigma.
Yeah.
As part of like, does a city want to get on board with cannabis?
Yeah, and it's also for people who I think of city government as being the people who install stop signs and stoplights and nothing more. The idea of opening up a weed shop is pretty out there. Okay. But I agree with you that
it's just like small-minded thinking.
Yeah, I think it's the same people who would say we shouldn't be selling alcohol because that's corrupting the minds of youth and we're using city money to sell that.
Got it.
Would be the same people that would say that about cannabis.
Got it. Okay.
But I think there's also, just to sort of put a fine point on this, the people on the way other end of the spectrum that say, I want to open a dispensary, and St. Joseph is opening a competitor to me that my taxes pay to support. And I have no ability to stop that, but you're directly competing with what pays for putting food on my table.
Okay. And that's a little bit of a hang up then. That makes sense.
I thought it was just all corporations, just everywhere.
It is.
It's all corporations. Some are just elected, and some are I don't know. They're all elected. I
No,
guess,
go
but-
back if you're truly curious about how we felt about this issue last year. Go back and listen to season 1, episode 29, because I think it felt a lot more fresh. We've started to warm to this idea a little bit, but it is very unique. It's niche, and it is a little controversial depending on how you look at it.
Yeah, absolutely. A hot take, if you will.
Hot dab, if you will.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, so we're going to leave that story there. What's I think sort of neat about this is assuming St. Joseph does actually submit that application, they'd be one of the first cities that we can certainly say has a license, because the municipalities, they don't go through any lottery process. As long as their application is good to go, they get that. So we could be seeing St. Joseph opening a retail shop maybe this summer.
I just want to say, like, a town like Brainerd, if a town like Brainerd would have opened a Muni dispensary, given the amount of tourism that goes through Brainerd in the summertime, like, I think that's more controversial. A town like St. Joe, and this is, my city perspective, like, I feel like it might be more accepted in these smaller towns that don't see cannabis being a mass or an overwhelmingly large business opportunity. Now, people will be surprised about how much cannabis ends up getting purchased in these small towns, but I'm overall in favor of the Muni option. But it, as we see here, there's not a ton of cities that are going for it.
No. Yeah. And I'll be very interested to see if I were to make a prediction. I think the closer the city is to a major highway or interstate, the more likely they are to have a municipality. But who knows? I could be so wrong about that. I'm just excited to see where it all goes.
The classic Lake in me is a little bummed Wayzata is not moving forward.
I know. And thinking about when that was first announced that they were exploring that would have been one of the bougiest dispos in the West Side. Like, that would have been pretty
It's the
fun
most,
to check
most
out.
expensive zip code in the state, right? You'd think they'd have a bang up dispensary.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, and they probably still will, but it won't be public, or it won't be city owned.
No. All right, guys. Well, for the last part of our news clip segment here today, what we want to talk through is all of the bills that have been introduced into the legislature so far this session. We sort of got off to a slow start, if you will, to this legislative session.
This one caught me off guard. When was the first one presented?
So it gets sort of tricky because there was a period of time where if you asked people who were GOP elected officials, they would say the House is in session. And if you asked the DFL, they would say absolutely it's not. So some of the bills that we're talking about were introduced like 3 or 4 weeks ago.
Okay.
But they weren't actually moved forward at all. They weren't ever introduced into the journal because to do that it has to be in session. The Supreme Court ruled that journal was not active. So it was like,
I see.
we had bills that were posted to the website, but maybe real, maybe not. But
you're talking about January.
exactly. But now it's March. We've officially only got March, April, May left in the legislative session. So we're coming into the endpoints, and we've got a good page and a half of bills that have been introduced that we want to talk through. Some of them really major. They're really going to change how cannabis will look in Minnesota. Other ones, not at all major. And we're going to start with that not at all major one.
Some more cleanup.
Yeah, exactly. Speaking of cleaning up, if you guys have illegal cannabis in Minnesota, you're technically supposed to pay a tax on that. It doesn't really exist right now, so that tax really isn't that important. It's $3.50 a gram, just so you can factor that into your cost. And there is a bill, House File 171, that would remove all reference to that. Will that move forward? Likely. It's a pretty non-controversial thing. Probably not as this. It won't move forward as House File 171, but some big omnibus bill at the end, we'll see this language slapped in and moved through.
It's fun and realizing we're about to get back into cannabis season.
Cannabis season. Oh, yeah, we are. Well, we talked a lot about municipalities with St. Joseph. House File 752 would allow municipalities to ban the sale of cannabis and hemp within their cities and require OCM to refund any applications of people that were in those cities who had applied for a license.
So this would create the ability for cities to opt out.
Yep. Hopkins says, I don't want to sell cannabis here at all. Nobody can make me.
That's not going to happen.
No, I know. But if they did, they would have the ability under House File 752. As of today, they absolutely cannot be doing that. Anywhere in Minnesota, we can be selling cannabis, and whether you are in a city that is favorable towards it or not, It's the law in Minnesota, so we're going to continue selling cannabis.
Like the guy up in Ely who's creating a bowling alley.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
That guy wants to come on the show.
Wait, I haven't heard of it. We're going to have to offline about this one.
We'll get him to call in.
Cool. Yeah, absolutely. Weed bowling alleys, I think are I want to touch on a little bit more.
Especially after your visit to Michigan.
Oh, especially after that one
And more.
We'll see how the draft rules come out. But let's talk about so House File 752. This is one that I really hope does not move forward because it could create those dead zones in Minnesota. If cities are able to say, hey, we don't want to hear, if counties are able to say we don't want to hear, we could have entire parts of the city where it's legal-ish, but you can't actually buy or sell it.
Yeah, that's not what Minnesota set out to do.
No. So will this move forward? Probably not. Will it get signed by Governor Walz? Probably not. But it's a good signaling of what the GOP is really hoping to shift our program into.
And to call this out, we're in year 2 of recreational cannabis. As the years go on and the House and the Senate change, the cannabis program in Minnesota, the cannabis industry in Minnesota is subject to changes based on the political majorities and minorities. Like
Totally.
we'll be dealing with pushback of this type year in and year out.
And we gave so much authority to the Office of Cannabis Management that if we get a governor who doesn't really like cannabis, that could be a little bit of a problem. But
Because he oversees the Office of Cannabis Management, which is why when we have issues with the Office of Cannabis Management, we have issues with Governor Walz.
Exactly. So House File 752, likely not one moving forward, especially because it bans hemp. Like it's so crazy that it's 2025 and we could see cities say, nah, no hemp here. Like, okay, sure. But 752, remember that number. Maybe it will come back, hopefully not. 755, this one will require THC caps from OCM, which are allowed but not currently required. And it would ban flavored products. So if you hit a vape pen and it tastes like Skittles, not the cultivar, but like the candy.
Cotton candy.
Not allowed.
Yeah.
Yeah, if it tastes like oranges, not allowed.
We've seen this. This came up last year.
The exact same language that was introduced and not passed last year.
Huh.
It's back, baby.
Wow.
Like a fun boomerang.
Yeah.
Or what's that meme? It's a trash you take out of the bar and then Barney's behind you again. All right.
Shout out Green Machine.
There we go. House File 1094. We've already have over 1,000 bills introduced this session.
Wow.
Clean up who is eligible for cannabis expungement to be all cannabis-related offenses. Right now, it limits and specifies what cannabis offenses are allowed to be expunged versus ones that are not. This just says anything cannabis-related goes to the expungement board. Because if there's minor technicalities, maybe you got this offense instead of something different, it should be up to the board to determine that, not just like something that happened 30 years ago.
You know, we should pair the community cleanup events that we've done in the past with expungement clinics or something like that.
Yeah, for sure.
Especially if there's going to be more opportunities for expungement.
Hopefully a lot more in the future.
Cool.
We're going to come back to this next one because it's a big chunk. That's House File 1254. We'll be back to you in a minute. House File 1634 allows cities to hold both adult use and hemp retailer licenses. Because picture this. This is a funny situation nobody really foresaw. St. Joseph, they go and they get their adult use license.
They're buying from North Star Canna. You know, they're buying products from the tribes.
Absolutely. But maybe they also have a municipal liquor store they want to sell THC beverages out of.
They want to sell Smazy and,
Sure.
and Take 5.
Well, it's illegal in Minnesota to have both an adult use and a low potency license. You can't have both types of businesses.
What?
Which wouldn't be a problem for anyone except, I don't know, maybe like a city that plans to operate 2 different municipal businesses.
That's fucking hilarious.
So we'll see if that changes. But as of right now, cities sort of have to decide, which one do you want? You can still sell hemp, but it has to be at your dispensary. You can't sell at the liquor store anymore.
And then 10 to 35% of your business, which is turned, you know, through the hemp cannabis beverages that we talked about on the interview coming up with Spencer, they would have to pull those products from their liquor store shelf.
And you'd have to say, yeah, unfortunately, you got to go down the street for that one or wherever.
Minnesota, baby.
Oh, yeah. House File 1672 would allow for the sales from medical companies to tribal medical cannabis patients. So if you're a member of a tribal nation right now, certain tribal governments, Red Lake, for example, has a medical program that exists. If you get certified as a medical patient, you can buy from the tribal businesses. but you couldn't go to Vireo and buy from them as a med patient. Those systems just haven't connected us. This would connect those two. So if you are a tribal member, you were certified by a tribal organization as a med patient,
Yeah.
you could then go to a Minnesota dispensary with your tribal card
Okay.
and still be allowed to purchase as a med patient, which makes sense.
Yeah. Okay. Wow. It just shows where there's like lines.
Yeah. Yeah. This next one I've been hearing a lot about recently. House File 1735. So we've got tons of wholesalers across the state of Minnesota that sell alcohol.
You've got Johnson Brothers, Burnix,
Yeah.
Hohensteins.
Absolutely. And unless you're someone like our buddy Sam who sells just cannabis, you're going to run into an issue soon where that wholesale license you have, you're going to have to go and get an adult use license. And then once you have that, you're not going to really be able to sell all the alcohol products. And you're also not going to be able to drive them all around the state. And you're not going to be able to. This would basically say if you have a alcohol wholesale license, you can also wholesale hemp products.
Yeah.
Because, if those places are importing products from out of state,
Out-of-state products.
once that license goes into effect, no more. So,
Sorry, but
no, please.
maybe, just maybe, hear me out.
Mm-hmm.
What if we looked at alcohol? What if we looked at cannabis the same way we looked at alcohol and realized, we don't need to really judge them all that differently?
Mm-hmm.
What if it was just alcohol and cannabis and we just treated it like 21 plus products and cut all the bullshit with all the cannabis restrictions?
Yeah. The federal government does that. They have the AFT or the ATF, the alcohol, tobacco, and firearm provision. They just took all the dangerous things and threw them into one organization.
That's what I was trying to think of.
We absolutely do need to treat cannabis like how we treat alcohol.
In Minnesota, where we've created this new opportunity for all of the people that we've talked about thus far in this 25-minute bit.
Yeah.
And it's like, gosh, it just shows you more and more that we need to just put it on a flat surface and not silo these two different things.
Yep. A couple other minor bills that we've seen. House File 1844, pretty similar language to one we already talked about before, just bans any flavored in vape products.
That was your bill, right?
Yeah. I just really like the taste of only weed. House File 1877 would make labor peace agreements a requirement in the hemp industry right now because they're required in cannabis. And if you're a hemp business doing sort of the same thing, should you need a labor peace agreement?
Are they required in
That's what I'm saying,
alcohol
yes.
businesses?
No. I know, crazy.
Interesting.
Now we're moving over to the Senate for a brief moment. Senate File 313 would totally separate the medical registry program from agencies that approve firearm permits. So as of right now, you're not supposed to be, denied a permit for being a med patient, but it's the same people that are looking at both.
Oh.
It's not that. This would put a hard firewall between those. Say the people that have access to one, they can't be looking at the other.
So if you want to have guns, you can't have drugs.
Technically,
right? But if you want to have guns and you have guns, you can have alcohol, right?
Yep. Yeah.
You can have as much alcohol as you want at your house, right?
For sure. You can't, I should say the one restriction is you can't conceal and carry while you're drunk.
While you're drinking.
Yeah. But you could totally have, $2,000 of alcohol in your car and also $2,000 of firearms and not have any.
As long as it's
problem
in your
with that.
trunk, yeah.
Yeah.
But you can't have guns and drugs together.
No.
Mm.
Senate File 795 would remove the medical cannabis exemption around use in a multifamily building. So if you're a med patient right now, if you're in a multifamily building, maybe you're vaping flower, technically that's allowed. You're not getting fined for that. This would say, no, it's multifamily, medical or not, you get a fine.
Oh, that sucks.
Yeah, not ideal. Senate File 1449 would raise the amount of money that you can get from OCM from their loans. So make it just more likely that people can actually fund their business through that,
Okay.
which I think is a good change.
Yeah.
The next one we're talking about, Senate File 2165. This is a pretty big one. It would take the medical cannabis canopy and raise it from 60,000 to 90,000 and would allow medical companies to deliver and distribute their product without any other license required.
I wonder who's behind this bill.
I know, it's crazy. It also, God, shocker, removes all manufacturing caps around medical products. So we've got all these caps that exist in the industry to create the craft program that legislators sought out to build. And this would just, God, fucking kneecap that.
Wow, that's fascinating because it wasn't that long ago that we saw Vireo purchased some sort of delivery technology.
Yeah. Yep.
And that's only available for Vireo
and
infrastructure.
their brands. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so crazy how like the acquisitions that were made before almost were as if the language of this bill was maybe drafted and given to someone and said, hey, this would be a really good change to the program. You should introduce this. And
Man, if only there was a weekly show that would cover some of these strange coincidences that
know.
keep happening.
so weird. So Senate File 2165, normally I would say not one to watch because I think that's a pretty unreasonable change to the program. But man, one to keep your eye on for sure.
They're back with the 25, huh? And we're not talking milligrams.
Senate File 2172. So the last bill we're talking about before we get to our big honker from Nolan West. Yeah, they're trying to raise it to 25 again. Back during legalization, you guys heard us jabber about enough. Should the legal age to purchase cannabis products be 25 instead of 21? Should we be the only state in the country that requires that? I don't know. Well, according to the senator, yeah, absolutely, we should. We also should have 30% THC caps on any concentrate product
On concentrate.
and 10% caps on all flower products.
And the only movies that should come out should be produced by Disney and Pixar.
No swear words except for one heck.
That's one heck of a bill, Limmer.
Yeah. And no infused pre-rolls. And what I think is so funny about this is basically what this person did. And I'm not saying that this bill was introduced by two 40 or 50-year-old white women, but if you went and looked, it might have been. And they probably walked into a dispensary and went, man, I don't really understand what these products are. We got to fucking ban them.
Yeah.
And here we are, that the concentrates, anything above 30%, I've never personally bought rosin that was below 30% THC. It does exist. I've not bought it.
And you've bought rosin before.
Yeah. 10% flower. Kale's looking over. He's nodding along because that 8% THC flower is his personal favorite.
As long as it's 1-to-1.
Yeah, 1-to-1. That is the industry that our senators want us to have in Minnesota.
Wow.
Yep.
Sounds like the Rochester lady.
Yeah, it does. It sounds like someone who thinks that you could roll, 10 joints with a pound of weed?
Big doinks.
Big joints. Well, we saved our biggest joint for the
Yeah,
end.
this is the biggest doink of them all. But, I got to say, Nolan West, if you ever want to come on the show,
Happily.
I appreciate what you're doing.
Happily. And as I was reading through this, I got to say, some of it I don't really disagree with. Let's jump into it. So this is really what we can refer to as, I think, the largest cannabis program update bill. Introduced by Nolan West. Will we see movement forward on this? Maybe. But I do think some of these are important things to talk about. First off, Steve, this one I thought of you immediately. Yeah. I thought maybe you had called Nolan West and said, hey, buddy, I need you to pull some strings for me. But it'd be raising that cannabinoid cap.
You got the wrong Steve.
Yeah. Oh, I'm almost certain. Yeah, you're right. 25 milligrams, no more. Now 50 per serving of THC. No. Sorry.
The C's, the
CBD,
D's.
the CBG, and THCV.
Coming back.
Yeah, coming back, baby. You can have that in there along with that 50 milligrams of that Delta 9 THC that we all know and love.
Sounds like a good time.
Yeah. I just love the lawmakers gradually learning how not dangerous CBD is. Of all right, first we got to put these really big restrictions on it.
No. First, the Department of Ag has to ban it.
Yeah. First there's cease and desist. Then we create a licensure program that requires people to have state auditors come out to their field, snip parts of their plants to make sure, just CBD and not
full term.
Yeah,
because you wouldn't want it to go over 0.03%.
God forbid.
Oh, that'd be so scary.
Now saying that, if someone wants to buy gummies that have 500 milligrams across a package, I guess that's not the end of the world.
I mean, I take 500 milligrams before I wake up in the morning.
Yeah, I would take 500 milligrams before reading half of these bills. I tell you that.
Definitely.
But it's good to see at least THCV sort of brought back into the conversation. It's not a cannabinoid that I personally have found a lot of. It's not my personal favorite.
Good for weight loss. Yeah,
and I know a ton of people that say it's energizing for them in a way that other cannabinoids aren't. Mm-hmm. And I think everyone should be able to find what works best for them in the program. If it's not something that's dangerous, why is it illegal? It's such a weird thing. But moving on from that.
It'd be like putting clamps on non-alcoholic beer.
Yeah. Nolan West also is coming in pretty clutch here and saying if OCM wants to put caps on concentrates, sure, they're allowed to, but they can't be anything below 90%. So we're going to have 90% caps on THC. Sure, I get it. Yeah, I guess maybe that makes sense to have that as the cap.
They don't sell 151 in Minnesota, so if you gotta draw the line somewhere, draw it at Everclear.
Absolutely. And a way better than the fucking 30%. Like, I'll take the 90. If we need to draw a line somewhere, which we don't, but if we do,
Right.
I would take that. And I love the legislators coming in here to say to OCM, let's try that one again. Good try, but try it again.
Yeah. We all deserve a second try.
We all deserve a second try. Shout out to our friend
Aaron Dupree.
All right, next one. So another change that it would make is that social equity ownership. Right now, businesses have to be at least 65% ownership to be social equity. This would lower that to 51%. So just majority social equity owned.
Mm-hmm.
Similar to what you see in other states. There's been some pushback against this, saying that it allows social equity applicants to be taken advantage of, lose more of their company. But I really think by allowing them to sell more of their company, gain more liquid instead of just equity,
Yeah.
perhaps it allows social equity applicants to be more successful.
More competitive.
For sure.
Mhm.
And that's why we saw Nolan West introduce that here. Do I understand why people were pushing for 65%? For sure.
Okay.
Do I understand why people are pushing for 51%? Absolutely.
Two things can be true.
Two things can be true. We also see Nolan West coming in here to say that those manufacturing caps that OCM are starting to float should be maybe a bit higher.
Oh,
He's
nice.
saying micro should be 20,000 pounds per year that they can be processing. Meso should be 60,000. This is better than what it could be.
Okay.
20,000 pounds, if we think about what micros are growing, probably isn't more than what they're able to grow with their 5,000 square feet of flowering canopy.
Mm-hmm.
But, maybe people are really good growers. Who knows?
Yeah.
And then
I hope so.
I certainly hope so. And then finally, and this one I found the most interesting, there's been so many companies in the hemp industry making products that are not legal in Minnesota, but are legal in other states,
Sure.
selling them in other markets. And OCM has sort of taken the approach of, yeah, that's okay, I guess. Not pointing to statute, not pointing to rules,
Yeah.
but just saying we don't have anything that makes it illegal. So, yeah.
You can keep your Wisconsin compliant product over here. You can
Sure.
Your Minnesota compliant product over here. And as long as you don't sell the Wisconsin compliant product on the shelves of Minnesota, we're okay with it.
Totally. When you go to their website, it asks you, what state are you in?
There's a
And
reason.
There's a reason for it. Choose Arizona. It gets you cool products, but they won't ship them to you. And this would clearly legalize anyone in the hemp industry to be making products legal throughout the entire country, just not in Minnesota,
Sure.
which I think is pretty exciting. It's also exciting because, well, hemp vapes might not be the top of everyone's desired market right now. I do think at the end of the day, hemp THC and adult use cannabis THC in a distillate form, really not that much different.
Yeah. No.
And so being able to
I
have,
could use a hemp vape right now.
absolutely. So being able to have those products being made and sold in other markets that do allow them
Mm-hmm.
and allow people to make money in markets that do allow those sales,
Right.
I think it's just helping Minnesota businesses succeed.
Yeah, that's a lot of double S's right there.
Yeah, too many for the guy with a lisp.
This is a Mr. West that we can believe in.
Yeah, yeah. And as I was typing these things up, I saw Nolan West, and shout out Nolan West. We disagree about a lot. We also agree about a lot. I went into this thinking, probably about 50-50 I'll agree with. And I was reading through this one. I can't really argue against any of these.
This sounds great. And,
Yeah.
let's find some bipartisanship to continue to elevate the Minnesota cannabis market, to continue to create competitive advantages for the small businesses that are in Minnesota, instead of crushing these small businesses
Yep.
and stopping the innovation that we know happens, that we know takes place when given enough space.
Yep. Here's my insider baseball tip for anyone who wants to sort of track along as we are. Watch the authors of these bills. For example, House File 1735, the wholesale liquor one,
Yeah.
authored by Nolan West and Zach Stevenson.
I saw those two were together on it.
Sort of interesting. One that we could see to continue to move forward. Whereas the bills that are authored by like 2 random Republicans in rural Minnesota who aren't on any committees related to the cannabis industry, probably not as likely. But all fun to watch.
Yeah, I hope, I know we will. So let's continue to track this as they progress, and let's continue to hope for innovation and success for our small businesses in Minnesota.
Absolutely. Well, so that was all the bills. I just want to thank everyone for listening to us just read a bunch of numbers and talking about what's in those bills. It's a lot of changes that could impact how our program looks. We're in the early days of what legalization is, and every single shift in rules changes that trajectory ever so slightly.
Right.
And I'm very curious to see what some of these changes to how, businesses work together, or how those caps exist, or what products are allowed, leads to what type of industry.
A new normal.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, that's all with the news that we've got for today. We're going to take a short break. When we get back, we've got a pretty fire interview, and I'm excited to give a listen. And then we got some high notes.
Brought to you by Ziploc.
Brought to you by Ziploc.
Keep it tight.
Keep it tight. Keep it fresh. We'll be right back. Ever felt like running a cannabis business means running in circles just to get basic banking? Union Bank and Trust gets it. They've been helping cannabis businesses for over 10 years, solving problems like securing accounts, managing cash flow, and navigating regulations. No more jumping through hoops, no more runarounds. Just straightforward banking solutions built on trust, integrity, and performance. Check out unionbankandtrust.com today. That's unionbankandtrust.com. Ready to kick off your home grow? We've got the perfect hookup for you. MinnesotaCannabisSeeds.com. They've got everything from fast flowering strains to unique hybrids, all ready for growing in Minnesota. And guess what? Our listeners get an exclusive deal. Use the code NL10 for a 10% discount on your entire order. Don't miss out and get started with the best seeds. Start your growth strong with MinnesotaCannabisSeeds.com. Remember, NL10 for 10% off at MinnesotaCannabisSeeds.com. Grab your seeds today. And we're back. We're back in the studio with Casey of Natural Harvest. How's it going, man?
Hey, Tanner.
Happy to have you here. It is another month, March now. We got another seed box that we're going to be talking about. Tell us, what do we have coming in the box this month?
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me. This month, we're doing Sour Gorilla.
Okay.
Another one of those kind of diesel sour flavors that, for me, it's kind of a personal favorite.
That's really cool. Yeah, I've really been enjoying anything that has that word sour in the family recently. Tell us a little bit more about what people can expect with that Sour Gorilla.
Sure.
I mean, what does that taste like? What can they expect to get?
Yeah, so like I said, that sour kind of diesel-y flavor. And then it's a sativa leaning. So, a lot of people kind of want that more uplifting, not so
For
heavy
sure.
feel, go about your day rather than just, lock you into the couch.
Very cool. So also we could probably expect this to maybe be a little bit of a larger plant in how it grows, less of that short and squatty and more of sort of the reaching towards the light.
Yeah.
A great one for March.
Absolutely, yeah. A good mix of both where, you can still do something in your tent. It's not necessarily like a monster 25-foot plant outdoors, but,
Totally.
a
Yeah.
little bit of that.
I love that. Yeah, that's a really cool one. That gorilla lineage, I think, is a fun one to touch on and one that we've talked about on the show a little bit in the past. Gorilla Glue, like that's a classic cultivar. I imagine you've had experience with that before?
I have. I haven't grown it, but definitely, sampled it over the years and definitely
sure.
one of my favorites.
Do you get similar sort of the notes of that, but now just like twisted and sour and a little bit more fermented? Or you tell, like, what can people expect from that?
I'd say that's a pretty accurate description.
Okay, all right.
Absolutely.
I love that. Very cool. So for people who maybe this is their first episode listening in, they heard the description of that seed. They went, oh my God, that is one that I need to try. Where would you send people to go and get the seed?
Sure. MinnesotaCannabisSeeds.com.
Okay. And maybe, it's March. We're starting to get a little bit closer to when that outdoor season really begins. You could be taking these seeds, starting them indoor today, and by the time outdoors is ready for us, your plants will be ready to thrive.
Well on your way for June, right? For a planting season. So Yeah, now's the time.
Very cool. Sour Gorilla. I'm excited to give that one a try. That'll be a fun one.
Awesome.
And then for those people that go to your website, they're looking to buy a couple other seeds along with that. I heard there's a rumor there's a discount code for people that are listeners to this podcast. Is that true?
Yeah, anybody who watches this podcast, NL10, and we get 10% off your order.
Sweet. So NL10. Go to the website, minnesotacannabisseeds.com. Fill up your cart. Choose what you want to grow, indoors or maybe soon outdoors. NL10. Get a discount on all of that. minnesotacannabisseeds.com. Awesome. Thanks for coming, Casey.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
We do talk every day, and that's what led to this opportunity, because Ghislaine, who did a great job at Lucky Leaf After Party.
Oh, beyond great job.
Did you get to try the food?
All of the food.
Oh my gosh.
Every single piece of it. It was amazing.
Wow.
So fresh, so delicious. How she infuses everything that she infuses together in her whole menu setup.
Yeah.
I mean, for the next Lucky Leaf official after party, or whatever official after party
February
it is.
27th, 2026.
Yeah. We need to 2-3x that game.
Yeah.
We will.
Right.
It wasn't a bad thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's just that it was so amazing that the people that in theory missed out on the amazingness
Yeah.
that was
Mm-hmm.
are going to experience it.
No doubt. I think the venue doesn't change. I think we just expand the space within.
100%.
Right.
Yeah. It felt, I think you and I discussed a little bit, but it felt good that it was tight, in a
Mhm.
good way, because in theory, if we had opened it up to the back warehouse area in Modest,
Yeah.
I might have felt a little more open, which wouldn't have been bad, because it's a spectrum, just like anything.
Yeah.
There are people that are gonna make, it was super packed. Well, yeah, because there's a lot of people, and it was a ballin' event, and we had a good time.
I'm sorry to the lady who had to wait outside for too long, according to her. So,
Yeah, no, I mean, at the end of the day, right, there are going to be people that are going to love that it's really packed and loud, and we positioned it as a party. It was positioned as a party.
and when you look at the photos, it was a full party.
It was a full party,
Yeah.
right?
So Ghislaine had chicken.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, what I knew it was good because I ended up getting over there at 9:30 to the food.
Yep.
And the veggies that were sitting out on the table, or on the tabletop,
Yep.
were still so fresh.
Oh, yeah.
3-4 hours later.
It was still great to go over there and just crush
Hummus.
delicious
Yeah.
hummus and peppers and
Oh,
broccoli and
yeah.
carrots, and it was.
The vegan grazing tray is what she billed it in the invoice.
And it was grazable. It was I don't even know how to equate it, but it was an 8-foot long by 2.5 feet deep, probably piled 6 to 8 inches high of just vegan grazing. You don't even call yourself vegan. If you love vegetables, welcome to the party.
Yeah.
And that was when we were setting up, we were putting up posters and all the stuff and getting ready earlier in the day, and they were setting up the whole bar for all the food, and I was salivating. I was she's
Right.
she's like, nobody eat anything yet. Not yet. Just
Yeah.
wait. Everybody patient.
She's such a boss.
Yeah, so boss. It's so good too.
Right.
Yeah.
So
So thankful for her amazing curation. That was that delicious sustenance.
And when I first reached out to her, it was before we had any of the premier sponsors lined up.
Mm-hmm.
We were in flux.
Yep.
And so I had to kind of keep her in the know, but also I don't know what our budget is. I know I want to have food at this event, but I don't know how much food we can have. And she was patient and professional, and it ended up working out. And I think we delivered from 5 to 7 exactly what we said we were going to do. We had open bar, food. There was still food left over at 9, so great, because not everyone got there by 7.
Right. Yeah, I remember there were people that were coming in at that hour. We knew, obviously, with Lucky Leaf closing right at 5, there was going to be vendors and people that weren't going to be getting, they got to shut down their booths, this, that, the other thing, right? Drive or maybe go to their hotel, because a lot of people clearly weren't local.
Right.
Take a little time to get to Modest in that case. So I thought that 7:30, the 5 to 7 for the happy hour and that open bar was just super dialed. There was still a good amount of people there, easily 100 plus people.
Yeah, there were.
But then like that sweet spot hour between that 7 to 9 time frame, I knew I was standing in and around the door and had met people from the show or the expo that day. And they came in, they're like, is there still food left? Like, I just want some of that food.
Yeah.
It's I was like, dude, I don't know. I haven't been back there in a while, but I know people are crushing it. So like rock and roll.
Yeah. Like with anything, but I think especially with events, the more that you do them, the better you get at them. And having done the CannaCon happy hour in August last year, which was more ballroom, professional catering, inside of a hotel room or a venue.
It was like networking after the networking.
Yeah. Yeah. And it was heavy on the liquor, like rum and cokes and gin and tonics. And
sure. We're modest on the position for anyone that wasn't there, was not rum and cokes and liquor. It is craft beer and beverages, as well as their THC infused products.
On that note, because I didn't drink a whole lot. I didn't eat a whole lot. I'm hosting the event, so that's par for the course. But
yeah,
how were they serving what were they serving? Because I saw some of the drinks were on ice. Were they serving grape apes on ice?
So modest, I can't go to the T of what it is, but they essentially have like they have like cocktail inspired beverages that they produce, like an old fashioned.
Yeah,
that's 22%. A grape ape, I forget what the percentage is on that, but yeah, they serve it like a grape ape in a small or a short,
like an airplane glass.
Yeah, airplane glass with ice and a straw, like you'd take a grape ape at like your local dive bar in Minneapolis, St. Paul.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, that plus on tap their craft beer selection as well as their THC bevs too.
It was phenomenal. So shout out to Modest.
Yeah.
And we look forward to coming back.
We're not going anywhere. We're right here.
That's a good intro. I'm here with Spencer Ploessl, the owner of Spencer Ploessl Creative, or just the owner of Spencer Ploessl owns Spencer Ploessl, and that's one thing that you get from him right away.
That's a little too meta for this conversation, I think. Or is it just the right amount of meta that we get to run ads on Facebook and Instagram?
Oh, that'd be so nice. That'd be so nice.
You just got to say meta at least 6 times per 60-minute period. I think that's what that's what they're looking for.
That's what they're looking for? Yeah. Okay, then they'll get us approved.
How do I get my Instagram
I think we're already at 4 right now.
We're 4? Okay.
Meta.
Steven.
I one time met a lady at the grocery store.
That was probably that was great. That caps it at 6.
And we're back.
And I just need my username and password to access my Meta account because the last agency didn't give it to me, so I had to create a whole new account.
Sure.
But I'm going to help you in this concept that is what we're discussing. I am Spencer Ploessl, live and living color in the flesh, and then the digital version of myself just throws a dot and a COM at the end, and then you can find my website.
That's
so
right.
I was having a hell of a time 15, 20 years ago, and I was like, okay, what am I like? What is my like independent freelance contract consulting thing? Like, what do I gotta create a name, I gotta create a brand, I gotta create a website, I gotta have a URL, I gotta make a logo, do all those things that like the average creative like thinks about if they're gonna go off independently.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought about it. I still think about it. Like, that'd be a cool name.
Yeah.
I always have loved the what am I thinking of? It's Supreme. I've always loved the Supreme branding. Very red, white, simple, clean, clear. Very, very impactful.
They borrowed it from that artist.
Yes.
From the 70s, I think.
Barbara. Very borrowed. Heavily inspired. Which let's at the end of the day, are we actually creating anything new, or are we just morphing what it is that we've seen and putting pieces together like a greater puzzle than the puzzle that's already been made? We just steal puzzle pieces from other things and create our own puzzle.
True.
Steal, inspire, whatever. There's different
good artist
semantics
copy, great artist steal.
Yeah, sure. Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I've always been thinking about my branding, and I could never come up with anything like really that great that I felt was like what it should be or who I should be that represents me. So what better than me to represent me?
Yeah.
So that's where I landed at. Well, we're just going to roll with SpencerPloessl.com and not confuse this. And then you'd be surprised. Still very confusing.
7 times, 7 different ways.
Because doesn't Apple have aren't they at me? like Steven@me.com, like your or iCloud, yeah. Like there's and so I man, really to roll with the meta theme here today. I didn't do like Spencer@SpencerPloessl.com for my email. Ooh, we're at 7, folks. Call from the nosebleed, says we're at 7.
Those are like $300.
Yeah, at least. No, full package, it's fine.
Okay.
Where was that? Oh yeah.
Your
Instead of
email
going
address.
Spencer@SpencerPlus.com, because I was like, that's redundant, or like hello at or info at or what design or creative or something. I was like, well, it's just me. So hence why if you try to email, you want to just email me at SpencerPlus.com. There you go.
It's easy to remember once you know it.
Yeah.
What do people tend to email you about?
That's a great question. A lot of different things. But to be completely like, I mean, I'm positioning myself.
I mean, do all your emails come through there? I'm sure
everything
comes through, and that's
all
what I love
funnel.
about you. You have a great way of running like one path,
Yeah.
and you're really keen on running one path.
Right. Yeah. With having us, with having collaborated with you in the last 12 months or so on a few different initiatives.
Yeah.
You've come to find that I run everything through, this like me at SpencerPlus.com, like trying to run in that one lane, the single lane of my own independent marketing and creative consulting business. And then, yes, I have tentacles that go out into other brands that I work on that, yes, I might have emails through something and someone else and other brands, because I feel like in order to fully integrate and have conversations and do reach out and comms plans and strategy and whatever else that might include, I want to be as one with the brand whenever I'm spending time and energy on whatever brand that might be.
Mm-hmm.
Which is where, like, in this case, thinking about Canna Connect, like you can find me at Spencer@CannaConnectMN.com. However, that's a face value piece in order to communicate in my mind in a strategic manner that is holistic to Canna Connect MN.
Mm-hmm. Right.
However, on the back end, which is what you're talking about, all of that funnels to the one lane for me, so that I'm hyper focused, highly organized, and don't miss a beat when you're managing, 2 to 7 different email addresses.
Yeah.
In this case of email, we're on this topic of email addresses, I guess now.
Well, you need one to get onto Meta.
Cha-ching.
I start to question where I'm at in life and it's happened multiple times, when I'm like at the max number of Gmails that Google will allow me to have at one time. Like it's 10.
Yeah.
And like to log out of Gmails, oftentimes you have to log out of all the Gmails and then relog back into the ones you want.
Right. In order to get rid of the ones
Yes.
that you're no longer like maybe be a part of or whatever. Yeah. You have to log out of all, and you're like, oh no, I don't know if I want to hit that button yet.
Exactly. And it's probably the thing that have you encountered this?
No, I've never gotten there, and that's because I treat email like a vampire treats garlic. Like, me and email are not cool. So if you need to get a hold of me, figure out how to get a hold of me without it being email.
That's funny.
But also, if you need to get a hold of me,
Steve at mncannabiscollege.org.
nailed it. Yeah, thanks, Steve.
We'll put that on the bottom of the screen. Yeah, you're just gonna get flood of emails for no reason.
It's true. No, nobody emails us. The thing is, it's like, yeah, it is. Do I want to make that commitment to relogging back into all of my Gmails, especially with 2-factor authentication and things like that? And it's like,
yeah.
But I guess like staying relevant, like to the Northern Lights podcast.
Yeah.
We often ask our guests, how did you come to find cannabis? What was your first experience with cannabis, and how has cannabis factored into your life as you live it now?
Yeah, that's a great question. To be completely honest, without thinking out it from like a business sense, and like how did your brand do this, and how did you work on different companies and organizations, and that, like going to the core level of like how did you find cannabis? Honestly, for me, it was the transition from grade traditional grade school into the high school level.
Sure.
The summer between 8th and 9th grade.
Yeah.
I discovered the great green plant that we surround ourselves with in all different form factors nowadays. Back then, it was just like from your homie and it didn't have a name, and and hopefully it weighed enough until like you bought a scale, and then you're like, oh, this guy's been chipping me for a long time on this. What the heck, you know?
Yeah. This podcast is brought to you by Ziploc.
Cha-ching.
That's just for Tanner. He likes to.
Allegedly, it's not illegal to just say brought to you by
Brought to you by
or
right.
powered by.
I think I just
You just legally can't say sponsored.
sponsored by. Yeah, I just watched one of the recent casts. There was a big thing on it. Tanner was all about that. What was it by? Or wait, no, it was live.
It was live at
the
Lucky
live
Leaf.
one. What was it? Who was it brought?
Brought to you by
Scout
Girl Scouts
cookies.
of America.
Yeah, Girl Scouts, Girl Scout
Obviously.
cookies. Yeah,
Right.
this is brought to you by because they're here. We brought
The bag was brought to you by Ziploc, for
literally.
example. Yeah.
I got it. Yeah,
That makes sense.
there's no sponsorships here. However, Steve at
mncannabiscollege.org will get you set up in the right place.
literally. Yeah.
And there's more coming. Keep watching. And so 8th grade,
Oh yeah. There we are.
and
Yeah.
I just want to highlight, like, whether it's 8th grade going into 9th grade or 12th grade going into college or whatever comes after high school, or that year following college into the real world, whatever that means to you. Those are really pivotal summers. Those summers can be a lot of fun because there's so much unknown. And I just want to, without sharing my thoughts, I just think it's interesting that that's when you found cannabis, because it's such a pivotal moment in your life.
Right. Let me give you a deeper picture into that space. I call it 8th grade. And I played hockey my whole life. I played sports as a kid growing up. So inside of my room, growing up as a grade school kid, every single wall you couldn't see any paint because it was all covered with Gretzky and Shaq and Jordan and posters all over it. Right, like total sports kid. That summer, all those posters came down. Black light posters went up. Black lights adorned. I had a Grateful Dead beads in front of my door, like that were the dancing bear, like beads to get inside of my door and out. Like I wore Grateful Dead tie-dye t-shirts every day in high school as a freshman. I wore hemp necklaces. I was still transitioning in my musical experience, so I still wore the red backwards Yankee cap because the first concert that I ever went to at the age of 13 was Limp Bizkit.
Oh, yes.
Second show I ever went to was Godsmack, opened by Stained. So like I was heavy in that, like that was the game before, like and then it was all like, the Who, the Dead, Pink Floyd, Bob Marley, just keep naming all the 60s. Like my parents and people, they're always like, you were born in the wrong decade, I'm a late 60s, early 70s kid. Like Steve Miller Band, some of that Southern rock, like game over.
Yeah.
Which I still jam to. I'm very eclectic in my music choices. I don't have any sort of judgment or bias to anything because I don't have the musical talent that other people have. We won't call it talent. Some people are just naturally gifted in a way to find the frequency that resonates with them and make beautiful tones come out of that, out of those chords, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, that transition period happened and like all the posters went up and the rest is history.
And so with cannabis being attributed to the change, like it helps us see the world differently, doesn't it?
Oh, most certainly.
Right. And so it's interesting that this plant that's consumed, and you probably weren't using a Storz and Bickel device when you started at 13.
No, it was like a Mountain Dew bottle with a piece of pipe tube super glued into it in the bottom, filled with water, and then some slide made out of aluminum foil. Yeah, 100%.
And then using that still gets you to the desired effect.
That was Spencer and Bradley. Those were the two guys.
Nice.
That's not S&B. Like the Storz and Bickel we use nowadays is a different S&B.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
that was shoot.
Spencer and Bradley, they'll help
It
you.
was 25 years ago now.
Sounds like a law firm.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's a great story. I mean, there's a lot more to it, right? 25 years later, but
Yeah.
I like the impetus.
Yeah.
And I'm sure your parents had no idea what was going on.
No. Well, my parents are in their mid to upper 60s, as I am in my late 30s. And, you know, they grew up in that late 60s, 70s era, and they were consumers of psychedelics and mind-altering substances and cannabis, you know, as we were very relative to right now. And, you know, at the end of the day, Stephen, this is very relevant for you as a recently... I was going to say recently acquired father. That doesn't make any sense, but it could.
The stork came and dropped
it off. And you're like, well, I accept. No choice now. No, but like, you know, there's the kids. Our parents just mess up their kids, right? Like everybody's just generationally just speaking. You just have kids, and you're just trying to find a way to not fuck it up.
Yeah,
and then it happens in some way, shape, or form. However you want to look at it. Some are good, some are bad, some are in the middle, right? It's just it's a good radar. And so in this case, like, yeah, I was actually put through like marijuana, weed, drug counseling, like for, I don't remember, I can't remember. Let's say it was like 2 to 3 months, something like that. I was in a program that like my dad drove me to.
Wow. Yeah.
And I don't think I've never talked about this publicly, and it's not something that I'm afraid to talk about. It's just a thing that doesn't come up because it just was part of who I was, and that's just what happened. But it was like, and I have no judgment or shame on my family, like my mom or my dad at all for this, but it was just so interesting to see, you know, looking back on it, reflecting on it, thinking about like what they were trying to do. They were trying to ensure that their child like turned out good,
right,
at its base level, like that he was a productive member of society, like, you know, got good grades and like got a good job and did all the things, went to college and wife, kids, blah 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 blah. In theory, right?
It was a
safety measure,
best case solution for the problem that they were feeling.
Yeah, whatever they were in fear of, that was their protective measure on what was theirs, and what theirs was this, you know, their firstborn son, and. Yeah, so I don't know. It's just so interesting because like my mom put me into the thing, enrolled me in this thing because she wanted to say you wouldn't smoke weed, and then my dad's the one that's driving me to this thing, and I'm like, but Dad, you're still the guy. This isn't you know, verbal conversations in my head, like, but Dad, you're still smoking weed because I found your weed and I found your, you know, all of your things. Like I don't. This is such a, I can't think of the word right now, but it's
well, it's a product of prohibition. It's the unfortunate reality of a Schedule I controlled substance that shouldn't be a Schedule I controlled substance.
I remember when I was younger, it was hypocritical is the word I was looking for.
Oh, yeah.
Very hypocritical, right? That's what I thought when I was younger, when I was like in grade school, you know, like, this is so, like, I don't get it, right?
No.
I'm not understanding. And now, like I'm saying, reflecting on it back, especially with you in this conversation, it's like, what it was a product of that fear and the wanting of something better for that child, i.e. me in this case. And I mean, I'm doing pretty good.
Yeah, you're doing great. You've done great work.
Yeah, I mean, here we are.
We're doing it.
Luckily.
Lucky
Leafly.
So, I mean, I think the generation, the 13-year-old Spencer in 2025, right? The kid in Madison who, you know, whose parent, you know, it's like whatever the parallel might be, I hope that there is more holistic approaches to educating young people on cannabis, because it's less of it's more approachable. Like if you're from Wisconsin, if we want to look at Wisconsin and, you know, the products that are available in Wisconsin, like you can get flower at gas station type smoke shops in Wisconsin, right? THCA flower.
Yeah.
But not to pick on that, because we do talk about that on the show often, but it's more so like cannabis isn't this like prohibited thing that nobody is allowed to touch anymore. I feel like there's more education and more transparency around cannabis. And I'm hoping that every generation forward, now that we're at this sort of tipping point where half of the states have legalized adult use cannabis, or nearly half of the states, that kids are less likely to be consuming it like behind the shed, you know, or hiding in the park, because the less that we, as a society, the less that we say no, the less we'll have to worry about kids fighting back and saying yes.
Right. I think there's been a big push in the last couple of years here, especially with, well, look at what's sitting around us, right? Like cannabis, THC infused beverages, right? From the Cannabis,
yeah,
right?
Somehow,
no matter which way it comes from, and no matter what your views are, it's still helping these drinks specifically, they're near and dear to my heart, only because, from the last 20 years of my life being in the craft beer and beverage industry, and then kind of segueing in the last 5 years, focusing on and working with some really awesome cannabis beverage brands here and far, out of Minnesota and such.
Mm-hmm.
I think, like I said, it's breaking down stigmas. It's helping create an environment which is education that isn't just kids, us kids running behind the shed and smoking weed on Thanksgiving.
Right.
It's creating a environment where a community is consuming beverages, whether that be beer, wine, spirits, ciders, non-alcoholic beverages, sodas, teas, kombuchas, THC infused brews, waters, seltzers, what have you.
Yeah.
The adaptogenic beverages from nootropics and things of that nature, right?
And not to cut you off about cannabis beverages, but
Yeah,
we found each other through LinkedIn.
What a place.
It's vast. And is it still owned by Microsoft?
Yeah.
And
Wait, I say yes like I knew.
I think it is.
I was like, I didn't know, but when you said yeah, I was like, done. All right, great.
Yeah.
I know that's who did or does own it. Anyways, without going deep into that.
Well, this whole podcast is brought to you by Microsoft.
Thanks, Bill.
You're still active on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
But when I met you, you were doing a lot of work for North Canaco.
Yeah, I was a creative director at North Canaco, cannabis THC infused seltzer brand, right out of Minneapolis.
Yeah.
Brandon and Mike are the two co-founders of that. Shout out to those guys. It was a great time working on your brand together. Awesome stuff. Yeah.
I mean, that's what I noticed, and what caught my eye was, wait a second, this North Canaco, it went from a brand that was, relatively known, but like not standing out by any means,
Sure.
to holy cow, this brand has really leveled up, and like I'm starting to notice that somebody behind the scenes is helping evolve this brand. And turns out it was, in some degree it was you.
Yeah, it was in part. I was focused heavily on the direct-to-consumer side, working on their Shopify website, implementing email marketing, and also partnering with media. Here we go. Partnering with media, buying and planning for specifically Meta, Facebook and Instagram ads. Which is a whole different game.
Okay.
We're not going to unpack the ad game for THC infused cannabis
I want
beverages.
to talk about these.
Yeah.
Not this one specifically, but
Yeah.
the opportunity around cannabis beverages, and
Yeah.
and maybe if you could take a step back and talk about
Sure.
the brewery world that you come from, and
Yeah.
you've unpacked the cannabis background, but talk about like kind of how the light bulb started to go off with excitement,
Yeah.
because you worked for Inbound Brew Company as
Yeah, Inbound Brew Co. is a marketing director there in Minneapolis, which is down in the North Loop, actually right kitty corner, Modest Brewing Company,
Yeah.
right down by Target Field.
hotspot.
Yeah, I worked for a couple other breweries, Lucid Brewing Company back in the day over in Minnetonka, and then as well as Miller and Leinenkugel's distributor over in the great state of Wisconsin over in Chippewa Falls.
Sure.
While I was going to college,
Okay.
UW Eau Claire.
Yeah, which is what a lot of people do. They drink alcohol in college.
So you don't say.
But nowadays, kids are drinking THC beverages.
Yeah, totally different. And it would be so interesting to see that world. But I wanted to, so before we go off on that tangent, what I wanted to say was you were looking to me to speak to my experience in the craft beer and beverage industry and that sort of like track that I've been on and what brought me into like the Cannabev space.
Yeah.
But I have to go back a little bit further into that 8th and 9th grader that we talked about that found cannabis and like kind of changed his image and really dove into that sort of like, oh, who's this little hippie kid? As I grew, I was an art student kid. Like I took all the art classes that I could possibly take. I made up art classes because there wasn't any more art classes to take in college or in high school.
Wow.
And then I started to learn like early like Photoshop 1 and 2. Like there were classes for that in my high school.
Yeah.
And I learned how to design logos. I learned how to like Photoshop the background out of a car and like change it to a sunset versus like trees, or
Sure,
you know, like
sure.
way OG stuff. Now you can just like click in the background, changes to whatever you want it. Like that's a different game. But right then I had this like vision in like, I don't want to date stamp it too much, but like, let's say 05, like 04, 05, 06, right when I was graduating college or graduating high school in 05. Yeah. And I really, as a pseudo like graphic designer, didn't even know what that meant before I went to college. Anyways, I always wanted to design, think of like cigarette packs,
Yeah.
right?
Red and white.
Yeah, marble, right? Classic. I'm a cowboy now. I wanted to shout out to Cowboy Cannabis.
Cowboy Cannabis, friend of the show.
Jonathan, friend of the show, dude. Met him in real life at Lucky Leaf, dude. Look at this.
He's a real cowboy.
I'm so lucky to have found this leaf and the real cowboy that is. Can't wait till we go up there and tour his facility, by the way. We got to take him up on that.
In Motley.
No, Motley. Yeah.
Be a Motley crew.
Can't wait. We're going to listen to some great tunes on the way up. Anyways, to unpack that, I wanted to, I was envisioning a day when I could be a graphic designer and design joint packs, like 20, 10, 20 pack, like, and I got to design like the actual packaging for like pre-rolled joints like that. That was my dream.
You were thinking about that.
I was thinking about that. I was like, man, someday it's going to be legal and I'm going to be able to do that. That's going to be so sweet. And then fast forward to now, like, I still haven't designed any joint packaging, but like me at spencerploessl.com, if you need any package design,
There will be a lot more joints coming online in the next year here.
yeah, you're in Minnesota for sure. But anyways, so that's kind of like, that's where that stems from, that mindset of like wanting to work on. At that time, it wasn't like, oh, I want to work on a cannabis brand. Like that wasn't it. It was like, I want to design packaging for this. That's where the light came and started to like burn, right? And then it just threw more fuel on the fire, which is what my experience in the craft beer and beverage industry did when I started working for Miller & Leinenkugel's in like 05. That's 20 years ago now.
Yeah.
05, 06 when I started at the distributor, and I was an intern. I was a graphic design production guy, like making signage for bars and liquor stores and things of that nature. And then that just fueled and perpetuated my like love for beverage in general.
Yeah. Can you itemize, can you recall the first beer that you designed? Have you designed a beer label? Beer label?
Yeah, it wasn't until, it was late in the Lucid Brewing Company days. Early, and then in the Inbound Brew Co. days, I was able to design some 750 milliliter bottles.
Okay.
Actually, I did some pretty unique stuff. A lot of people were just designing typical sticker labels and things of that nature.
Yeah.
And my biggest thing is like at a retail location, like yes, at your brewery, selling off sale, like that's easy. People are already there. They're consuming your liquid, consuming your product. They'll grab out of the cold case, take and go. Like that branding to me is less like intrinsic to the value of somebody like looking at a label. Like you go to a store, you're like, oh, wine. We all know a lot of people. We all in this room have probably just been like, well, that's cool. There's a red, great. Oh, that's neat. That's a white, great. My mindset around that was like, there's so many craft beers that how do you stand out on that shelf? And there's so many badass designs, so many great label designs. So I actually partnered with a guy by the name of Todd. He's in the Northrop King building over in Minneapolis, and he's got a studio called Angel Bomb, and he's a letterpress design company. So I designed these labels that were really thin slivers, like that would fit around the base of a 750 milliliter bottle. And it was all about the sensory more than just visual. So like it said like RIS, just literally like RIS, and then really fine print in the center, Russian Imperial Stout. And there was no like at face value on a shelf or in a cooler door, you would see it was a Russian Imperial Stout, but you knew nothing else. So in order to know what brand it was, what brewery it was from, what other ingredients, what percentage, you had to pick it up, open it, touch that label, feel it, and be like, oh, this is Inbound Brew Co. So for me, it was a full sensory experience from like visual A, curiosity peaked B, C, open door, grab off shelf, feel it. Whoa, what is this? This is letterpress? That's not what the average person is going to think because they don't know what letterpress is. But wow, it feels sort of cloth-like. I like this.
Yeah.
Feels unique, feels luxury. Even though it wasn't like top tier, it wasn't like a $50 bottle of like Russian Imperial Stout. It was whatever, $18 or something,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
But then like, okay, now I know it's the brand. Okay, wonderful. All of that subconsciously now has put me into the mindset like, well, I'm not even thinking about putting it back. Yeah. I'm so bought into what is that experience. I want to experience this. If they took all that time, subconscious again, remember, as a designer, as a creative, that's my job, is to create, allow the subconscious to come to the frontal cortex and be like, whoa, I'm not even thinking about this, that I want to experience this more. I want to keep going. I want to keep, like, I just want more of that. So I want all of that just happened that we just explained to then go, I want to try that liquid. And now you're making that purchase.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that was one of my first forays into label design, more than just like, and not saying anything's wrong with this, because this is what it is. And also what I did was what it was. But like, this is like design a thing, and then we have 2 stickers, and that's great, right? Like tried and true. Like that's but for me, I wanted to go beyond that. And I'm not saying it worked.
Sure.
Like,
yeah,
it's
no
not like it maybe
guarantee.
sold more.
I've never heard of it.
I like to think about it as what's the yes and. Like everything is improv with marketing, really, because you're reacting to trends. You're trying to understand zeitgeist. You're trying to tap into whatever, like the moving target in the dark room.
Yeah.
Totally. And so with marketing, it's like, it's not about standing out on the same shelf. It's about like building a whole new shelf in a lot of ways. And so
Yeah.
I really like the whole point of like, you're laying the breadcrumbs for the people to basically arrive at their own subconscious decision.
Right. Because what do we all want? Like, naturally, we all want a silver bullet. We want it quick, fast, now. Especially in American culture and society, we want it now. We want it fast. We want it simple. We want it easy. And, like, once you actually make the human slow down and actually think about and make an intentional purchase based upon whatever it is that they might be experiencing through all different types of sensory data, that changes your own perception of what it is that you're experiencing. Whether or not you think about it that way, I do.
Yeah.
That's what I personally like to bring into brands, companies, organizations, products, things I work on. So like, yeah, and for me, like we've been sitting here talking a lot about design and things of that nature. Like that's what's then morphed me in my, like, okay, I'm a graphic designer, like I'm a brand manager, I'm a marketing director, I'm a creative director, I'm like, what are you? And like this whole concept of like, what is an independent marketing and creative consultant? Well, I still am figuring that out because there's not a definition. There's a lot of people that might call themselves that, and mine is just like a morphology of like what I've done. I've done a bunch of marketing things, I've done a bunch of creative and design-esque things, and like I marry them together, and I can help consult for brands and products and companies and do that in a lot of different ways, shapes, and forms, from designing a label, as we're speaking about right now, to focusing on your e-commerce strategy, right? Like as we were just discussing earlier today.
Yeah.
For something that has nothing to do with craft beer or cannabis.
Sure.
You know?
But on that note, to flip it,
Yeah.
what do you think of hemp-derived THC? And when you first heard about it, did it take you a little while to wrap your head around? And like, I'm genuinely curious. Like, we know that it's cannabis.
It's cannabis. There's an umbrella. There's cannabis. You have marijuana. You have hemp.
Yeah, they're cousins.
And right.
They're also cousins with hops.
The hops is
which you've met hops.
The terpene game.
Yeah.
Gislin, let's use her as the full circle back to her as an example. Like her in talking about terpenes and food and her, what is it called? Isn't
the terpene tasting kit? And
there you go.
How she pairs. She does these private dinners where she pairs food and cannabis, and I don't know if you remember. I don't know if you would know the answer to this question, but like, where do you recall first hearing about THC beverages?
Oh, I know exactly where. It was in the great state of Colorado, almost 5 years ago now. Maybe 4.
Okay.
I forget exactly. Doesn't matter. Anyways, I was out there for the CBC, the Craft Brewers Conference.
Okay, not the cannabinoid.
No, not CBC, the cannabinoid. And at the Craft Brewers Conference, I was out there, and at the time, I was consulting on a brand called NZ Hops. NZ Hops is a master grower cooperative of 27 master growers in New Zealand. with some of the most sought after hop profiles and hop cultivars in the world, like Nelson Sauvon and now Nectaron, Superdelic, Motueka, Kohatu, things of that nature. Anyways, I was out of CBC, and we and some of my teammates, they knew Dr. Keith Villa. Dr. Keith Villa is the father of Blue Moon.
Oh,
And Keith had invited us over to his home facility where he was producing a brand and a beverage by the name of Saria. And they were non-alcoholic craft beers infused with rec level marijuana THC.
sure.
So when I was at CBC, my hotel room I was staying in, I went to dispensaries and I bought all and as many of those beverages as I could. Also, it was early in my alcohol-free, non-alcoholic lifestyle journey as well. And
Sure.
I started in 2020, so it was like 2020, 2021 when this was going on. So yeah, that's where I first experienced a THC-infused beverage, and I couldn't wait because I had for the longest time wanted a craft beer experience with an IPA or a wit beer, as Saria still produces non-alcoholic like NA beers or actually they're alcohol-free beers. They're 0.0. We could unpack that if you really wanted to, 0.0 or 0.5. But
We're at the Dabbler Depot. We know what we're talking about.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, it was a perfect blend of those two worlds. It was craft beer and craft cannabis coming together in one sitting, where I could have a cannabis experience, but also a flavor experience of an IPA or like a Blue Moon-esque style beverage.
What a special place to try that and to consume
100%.
Truly a premium beverage
Yeah, totally.
early on.
And that was, mind you, that was Colorado, rec state, dispensary only. And then and then I was like, man, I wish I could buy that. And it's just like the designing joint packaging.
Yeah.
Like, it was the same thing. I was like, this is awesome. I wish I could buy this where I'm already making beverage purchases. And then fast forward, not but like, let's say 21, 2, 3, right? 2, 3, 4, like fast forward a couple of years and boom, now, to like poster child state we live in here in Minnesota, like, dude, you can go to your local grocery store, co-op, convenience store, Dabbler Depot, things of that nature, and you can
Tap room.
You can get it on tap in Minnesota. Not every brewery's doing it, but you can go on tap and you can literally get a pint or a 10-ounce or a 5-ounce sampler of a THC-infused beverage. And that's obviously with the advent's wrong word, but the introduction of hemp-derived cannabis-infused beverages.
Yeah, I mean, it's through bipartisan politics in some part with respect to Minnesota. So, yeah, it's an incredible moment. It's an incredible movement, and it's an incredible time to be in Minnesota, focused around cannabis and THC beverages. And what are some of your goals as it relates to continuing to fuse your past experiences to power and further more experience? Yeah,
so right now where cannabis beverages are, you'll talk to people and they'll be like, man, it's so crowded. There's so many beverages. There's no more room for people to try to keep, bringing these beverages online for direct to consumer or retail and distribution across the nation to the states that still allow it. But what it feels like to me is it feels like 20 years ago when like Surly Brewing Company at the Miller and Leinenkugels distributor I was at was coming across the state into Wisconsin from, the Twin Cities for distro, and like they couldn't keep up with demand in Wisconsin, so they pulled back out of Wisconsin and then only served Minnesota at that time.
Yeah.
And people were building more and more space for more craft beer, more craft beverages. They were building more coolers in larger grocery stores and liquor stores.
Mm-hmm.
It was only, and
it was craft beer was booming.
Yeah, totally. 20 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And I was in that. So without belaboring it, this feels like that. So for all those people that are like, man, crowded, this, I'm like, And not in a judgmental way, but
Sure.
just in a way that that's very truthful to my own,
Yeah.
self.
Right. The cycle.
You have no idea. It's the first. Welcome to the first day of the rest of your life. Think about 20 years from now. Think about 20 years from like 2023. Okay, 2023 was when I was consulting or working as a creative director on the North Canaco brand. I think about like 2023. So like 2043. Okay, 2043. It's 2025. That's 20 years from now. Being in that space, we don't even know what that's going to look like.
No.
We think we know because of what we know now. We have no idea. We literally live in this unknown. And for me, I was just talking to a guy at Embrace North today in the sauna sesh before I was, doing the fire and ice game.
Sure.
And dude, like we were talking about living in the unknown and talking about fear and greed and money and like, I don't know, we were unpacking a bunch of stuff, but
It's a great place to do it.
right? Very community focused. We were literally like thriving. Like you don't know what you don't know. We literally live in the unknown. So you got two choices. Either you can grab it and embrace it, or you can be scared of it.
Sure.
Right? And I personally, there's a lot of other things you could probably use as words to describe that, but I embrace the unknown. I love living in the unknown because it's all that we all live in the unknown. We have no idea. I don't know what's going to happen in the next 10 minutes. I mean, I'm probably going to be still sitting here next to you, but like at the end of the day, like we don't have a clue what's going to happen. So 20 years from now,
Yeah.
full circle picture, dude, I don't know where these cannabis are going to be. Like
Sure.
it's scary, right? Like right
Yeah.
now and legislation and state by state and federal and all this jazz is just
Yeah.
like, I just take it one email at a time.
Yeah. I think we're safe in Minnesota.
You think we're safe?
Yeah.
Why do you think we're safe? And
Well,
what does safe mean?
We're safe is a 4-letter word.
Nice.
We-
Safety meeting.
I mean, we've proven that the sky is not going to fall with
Yeah.
Minnesota THC beverages.
I follow.
From a regulatory perspective, I think the path that we're on is relatively protected.
Mm-hmm.
Now, federally, things could change. However, the state law will matter more. And
Yeah.
so I feel really good. I feel really comfortable in the space that we're in,
100%. Same here, dude.
100%.
Yeah.
The point is, though, there's still a lot of still a lot of time
Oh, yeah.
to develop new things, and I look forward to continuing to develop new things with you, and
Yeah.
appreciate you coming on this show because this is the latest episode of the Northern Lights podcast. This is season 2, episode 22.
Wow.
222.
222. Look out.
We'll get matching necklaces.
I can't wait.
We'll be right back.
I wish I got a law degree. Just like 30 years ago when I was 5.
Yeah.
I wish I was studying for the bar.
There is a guy I know. Everybody talks about him. We don't know him.
Should we bring him live on the show?
Yeah, yeah.
No.
Let me. We gotta ask him if you know.
Hey, Opie, you're on live on the Northern Lights podcast. How's it going?
Hell yeah. How are you all doing today?
We're doing great. We're doing great, man.
Hey, Opie.
Sick. I just have a simple question.
Oh, yeah. What's up?
When doing cannabis wholesale, could I use underneath the same on point as cannabis, what was it? Transportation?
Can you say that last part one more time? Can you use the same business for wholesale as the other one?
He's asking the question. Can you use the same business name for both the transporting and wholesale?
I'd have to look specifically in what licenses you're allowed to hold at the same time.
I think yes.
I'm almost certain that you can.
That one is allowed to have it combined. I just wasn't sure if it would have to have like a different
Nah, you can do the same name.
legal name or whatever.
Nope, it can all be the same business with just a couple different licenses allowed to do a
What are
couple
we
different
talking
things.
about on the Northern Lights podcast today?
You know, we're just doing our high note segment, which is where we sort of end with something that we're just talking about while we're stoned. What have you been talking to people about while you've been stoned?
Still Christmas cookies, bro.
Ah, Christmas cookies, my man. I don't blame you there.
And licensing.
Yeah, and licensing. Well, honestly, after getting through the license, I feel like you deserve quite a few Christmas cookies. So definitely get some. All right, man. Well, I'll hit you up later.
Thank you, bud.
Yeah, talk soon. Bye. There we go. My favorite way to help people is just saying, I think so. And then they go, yeah, that's what it says on the paper. And I go, yeah, so then, yeah, that. I love Opie. He's the
And
best.
that's why you wish you had a law degree 30 years ago.
30 years ago, when I was 5 years old, I would have been studying.
Mm-hmm.
So if people are doing the math, 35.
Hey, I'm 35.
Hey, I'm 35.
Wait, what?
Oh, I get it.
Oh, all right.
Mark Barris, everybody.
Everyone. Well, so friends, we reached the end of our show, which is where we're stoned. We've sort of talked about the news. If you're listening along, you're clearly at least putting up with us enough, and it's time for the high note, where we just sort of unwind. We talk about something that we've been chatting about during this week. Maybe well stoned, probably well stoned, but maybe otherwise. Just something that's been on our mind.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's something positive, sometimes not. Sometimes it's a random question or fact.
Mm-hmm.
Guys,
Sometimes it's Unwind Moorhead.
yeah. Shout out to Unwind.
They had a booth at Lucky Leaf
Okay.
across from us. They were one of the few brands or distributors or cannabis businesses from Minnesota with products that exhibited. And there was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 lanes of booths. And Unwind did a great job. They're doing great. They came out. They hung out with Doc Dabbs on Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
Doc Dabbs took over the booth for a couple hours.
Love it, of course,
And
as he does.
And, I was just thinking about how, as he does, big dabs. I was thinking about how national events need local members of their community to integrate, to have the conversations, provide the space, the people.
Mm-hmm.
Unwind is a part of our community. They had a great booth. They're doing great. They're learning all these things that can help them better position themselves. In this case, in Moorhead.
Very cool.
Yeah. And so in a lot of ways, that resembles how I feel coming off of this past weekend.
I dig it, man. Yeah, it was neat being at Lucky Leaf, and I didn't know every brand there by far, but it was cool seeing a couple homegrown brands. It's like, you're in the expo center. Like, that's neat.
Yeah. The Expo Center, man. The convention center, thumbs up. The convention center location, shout out to the low-key backdoor parking that they offer.
Yeah, apparently that door is just always unlocked. Like, that was nuts to just realize.
I mean, there's like a couple security people to contend with, but like,
Well,
just
yeah.
duck, bob, pop them.
I just offer him a dab.
Oh, yeah, that right, yes. Yeah.
That security guy who hit my pivot was really chill. No, I wish.
I was like, wait, the
I
Firewatch,
wish.
the Firewatch lady.
No, the Firewatch lady was not chill. Apparently, those were the people last year that were walking around telling people, you can't have products here. You got to put that away.
Yellow and black.
Yeah, this year a little bit more chill.
Who do you think like ordains the Firewatch person to be like? How do you qualify?
I think Jacob Fry. He just like chooses.
He's just like you.
Yeah, it's like a knighthood kind of thing.
Okay.
And then it's the Metropolitan Council is briefed
Yeah.
following the meeting.
Okay. How the system works in mysterious ways, folks.
Yeah, it's the same way that, some directory or the heads of different dispensaries get picked. It's just, smoke signals or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Jordan?
I'm going to use my high note and refer back to episode, I believe, 19 with Bryant Jones. Was that?
Ooh, yeah.
He shared a little tidbit about how to, in his mind, scientifically adequately prepare your flower for smoking. And I haven't used a grinder since that day.
Ooh. Interesting.
I've just been getting personal with the flower, crumbling her up. Yeah, a little sticky fingers. But
Absolutely. It fits your smoking method.
Yes. Yeah, big bong guy. And it has actually, I don't know if it's placebo or me just trying to affirm something.
No,
But
it's science.
I do believe that it is it had an effect on the effect, the potency, just the overall experience. So I'm throwing it back to Bryant Jones from episode 19. Go and listen if you want to
Yeah, there were some fun tips during that interview.
Yeah. He really gets into it, and I'm like, holy shit. He broke up in my brain a few different times during that episode. So
That's hilarious.
So my high note is that I am getting higher than I
Yes!
used to be. Woo!
There we go.
More terpy.
Yep.
Sticky fingies.
Yeah, and I'm saving money because I'm not going through just
Wow.
big joints all the time, because that's like the convenient, easy thing. Like that's the habit that was formed. That's the like oral fixation, the meditation, all that yada
The
yada.
ritual.
I'm going through like a quarter of the flour I
No kidding.
was going through.
Wow.
And it's like, yeah, my guy isn't super thrilled, but like
Hey,
my wallet is.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that's, I get all my flour from home grow, but that's just because I'm high.
I thought that was just like the contact name.
First name Home, last name
grow.
Grow.
Check it out. It's from 09. It's Drake.
Tanner.
Shout out to no. All right. My high note from this week. I just had to bring in this ad. I got to be honest. I come into the studio every week with no fucking high note, no idea what to talk about. Sometimes I see something funny and it's like, oh, I should talk about that. And then I do what I always do, which is I get high and I go, oh, that was hilarious, and then I forget.
I had about 6-7 options swirling within about 3 seconds of us really starting the segment. So I was like, let's just roll the die.
Yeah.
See how it plays. And
Yep.
that's the one I went with.
I definitely, when we first started doing this segment, like throughout the week, would be like, oh, that's the one, and I'd go to the notes and I'd like type it in and I'd be like, I'm gonna remember that one.
I've stopped.
Yeah, I don't
typing
do that
things in.
anymore. I'm just like, I'll remember it. No.
Yeah.
But thankfully, I found an ad that I just wanted to read and just talk about the incredible language that I've never heard sell cannabis before. Now, we all know that cannabis, how do I put this in a way that's not disrespectful towards myself and all my friends?
What type of cannabis are we talking about?
We're talking about tinctures. I think people who use cannabis products for so long have been told, you are wrong, you don't find medical relief from cannabis, that they sometimes fight against standard established medical practices because they were shown, hey, you were told you were wrong and you were actually right. So, keep fighting. So I think the alternative medicine, alternative energies world really unites with cannabis in a way that, like, I don't love, but it is what it is. And I don't have any good reasons why we shouldn't do that. Why shouldn't chakras and cannabis be combined together? Okay. But what I'm noticing here is that we have a direct combination of all of this together in this beautiful ad from our buddies at Biosource Botanical. Now, this isn't shitting on the product. I've never tried the product before in my life. This is just talking about the wonderful ad that you can find in a local, wonderful cannabis magazine. Now, it starts very normal. You'd start reading, unlike traditional full-spectrum CBD products, which include CBD plus trace amounts of additional compounds, our isolates focus solely on CBD. Okay. All right. Sounds good. And actually, there was a typo there where it doesn't say that. It says, unlike traditional full-spectrum CBD products, which include CBD plus trace amounts of additional compounds, or isolates that focus solely on CBD, Active Spectrum preserves the plant's complete therapeutic profile by maintaining the natural synergy of cannabinoids, terpenes, and flavonoids, you've got me, as well as their energy fields. You get a full power of the plant delivered in every Biosource Botanical product. These energy fields enable communication between plant compounds and cells, supporting precision mitochondrial activity to reduce inflammation, enhance immune response, and restore balance at the cellular level. Now, putting aside the fact that it is illegal in Minnesota to say that cannabis products impact your body in any way, shape, or form, ignoring that fact, to say that not the cannabinoids, not the terpenes, not the flavonoids, but the energy fields that are established by processing cannabis are really the healing compounds, I just think it's incredible. Now, do you guys have questions? Because I have questions. Don't worry. You can scan the QR code and ask Botanica, their wonderful AI bot, that will tell you any questions that you have about this beautiful energy field.
Hi, I'm Botanica, your Biosource Botanicals guide. What should we ask it?
I think we say, what are cannabis energy fields?
Yep.
As he's typing that, I'll read. They have got a bunch of really cool things along the bottom. They are clinically verified or clinically validated. I don't really know what that means.
The medical field acknowledged that somebody has acknowledged that this existed.
That is a product. Okay, yeah. Third-party tested? Yeah, sure. All right, here we go. So cannabis energy fields refer to the natural energy fields and molecular structures inherent in the cannabis plant. These fields are preserved through low-temperature extraction methods. This process ensures that the plant's natural energy fields and molecular structure remains intact, which are often destroyed by heat or chemicals. So are they talking about like terpene loss or like cannabinoid decay? Like, I don't necessarily know what the energy level is.
I feel like this is somebody who is very good at marketing and has no concept of any sort of law.
Yeah. So if you are from Biosource Botanicals, come on down because we would love to have you come and just come and let us sample your product.
I want to feel the energy fields.
I want to feel the energy fields. Wow.
I mean, but at this point, I don't know enough to know that that's not true.
It could be. And let's throw that big asterisk in here, which is that it could be true. You know, we don't know, and we don't definitely want to get sued for anything libelous. We're not making jokes about the product itself or anything. I've never tried this, but the ad itself, man, if it didn't catch my eye in a way that raised some questions.
And that's just the content. Think about the graphic design element. That raises its own set of questions.
Well, I love a good cannabis ad, and they don't have to be good for me to love them. Well, that's all we got for today. Man, it's been a busy episode.
Yeah, you kind of powered on through, didn't you? A lot of numbers, a lot of
numbers,
House,
a lot of dabs,
representatives,
but moving closer ever towards a legal industry. You know, this is the last episode that's coming out before that application window closes. By the time we're back in the studio recording again, we're going to sort of be on the other side of that. And whether it leads to a bunch of stores being open or more lawsuits or who knows what else, we don't know. But at least we're moving forward.
Up and to the right, baby.
Up and to the right. Well, as always, you can find our show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube. Drop us a subscription. Go comment. What candy do you think should win? Because I've got my opinions. You guys know my opinion, but maybe you like something a little bit different. Maybe you're a Reese's Pieces fan. Maybe you think that pickle and Cheez-It sandwich should have won. Put that in the comments, or don't. That's okay too. But just make sure to tell a friend about Northern Lights. We're going to be back in your feed next Tuesday. Even more fun. And check Tanner's Terp Tasting on Friday. We're going to keep chirping, tasting, chirps. One of those.
Tannering the terpenes.
That's what we'll be doing here on Northern Lights Podcast. And that's why you guys tune in. Thanks for being here. We'll see you all next week. Bye-bye. Northern Lights is a Minnesota Cannabis College production. This episode was produced by me, Tanner Barris, and by Steve Eigenman and Jordan Witt. Production assistance from Marcus Harkis, Shayna Payton, and John Barty. Video and audio recording at the Dabbler Depot studio by Jordan Witt. The information provided in this podcast does not, and is not intended to, constitute legal advice, but is instead for general information purposes only. No listener should act solely on the basis of information provided without first seeking advice from their own legal counsel. The views and opinions expressed in this program are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views or positions of the Minnesota Cannabis College. Please listen responsibly.